What do you know? 6:30, right on the dot. There must be a lot going on today. This has been a crazy, wild day. A lot good happened. One thing not so good. I'll just give you the quick highlights and bring up the guests that we're all waiting on. We have Bederow on the show tonight. Attorney Mark Bederow is here. Just want to remind you, super chats, we read them at the end of the show. So any of those Venmos, super chats, or even renewing your membership, those messages, we read them all at the end of the show when he's here because it just gets too crazy otherwise. If you want to leave us appreciation, we love it for the show, but we read them at the end after he's gone. So any questions you have, just put them in the regular chat for free. No questions for a fee here with Bederow. The big thing I want to say is today was just, I mean, I'm speechless. You know, this guy got on the stand and his resume. I've a higher degree than he does. My little BA. It's so funny. This is just what we saw today was just shocking. Actually, I'm speechless. I can't believe it. We're all in shock. We're all watching it. I just can't wait till tomorrow morning to see the rest of this with him. This was Karen Reed retrial this morning. It was kind of boring, and then it got really exciting with this witness. This was supposed to be the bombshell. What was Kevin saying? The chip off. This guy was going to put it away for Karen Reed. She was going to get put in jail by this guy. Instead, I mean, we're wondering if he's still going to be employed by the company tomorrow. The scandal with the company. This is just so shocking. What happened today in court? And also today, we found out that Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy, had a bunch of charges dismissed against him. So that is exciting. Not so exciting is to see someone get charged, arrested today. Erica got arrested apparently in the buffer zone by the Massachusetts State Police. Attorney Mark Randazza reportedly was there and witnessed the whole thing. I believe he's representing her. This is the part that I don't like. So there's been a lot good today. One thing not so good. We'll talk all about it. We have the attorney. Let's bring him up. Attorney Mark Bederow. Welcome back to the Young Jerks today.
How are you?
Good. A little fired up. It's just today was just something else.
That's one word for it. I've never seen anything like that. Certainly not in the case of this magnitude where everyone's watching and, you know, they're at the end of their case. They're supposed to be finishing strong and they've just made a mockery of this whole proceeding. This is a farce. This whole thing has officially become a farce. Whether you think something happened or didn't happen, you just can't try cases like this. And to call an expert who's supposed to be an expert in, you know, data forensics and all of that, and who has pervasively lied about his academic credentials for the better part of what now I think he said was 17 years. He is pursuing a degree on multiple occasions. Previously, he said he had a degree. He changed what year he had the degree. And if that's not bad enough, he actually apparently changed the name of the degree to something that doesn't even exist at the university that he went to. So he's a liar. Call it what it is. Academic dishonesty is the death penalty for an expert witness. I mean, because these are witnesses that are supposed to be experts. You look to them to give guidance on subjects that you don't understand, and credentials matter. And this guy is a complete fraud. And if Brennan had done any research, he would have known that because it's readily available if you have the time and effort to look. And certainly one would hope that the prosecutor would be the one to actually look. And if that's not bad enough, it looks like he did look, actually, because in establishing the bona fides of his expert, he got into all the usual matters in which you would bring out with an expert about their credentials. He asked him if he'd ever been published. He asked him if he's given any seminars. He asked him about his work experience. He asked him about every single thing except his academic background. So he knew. Okay, don't think for a second
Gotcha.
that this guy didn't know. He did, and he, as you can see, as his pattern, he tries to just memory hole bad facts. He did it with Mike Proctor. He's done it with a lot of people that were in the house that he's not going to call. He did it with a bunch of first responders who aren't going to give him the testimony that he wants to corroborate other witnesses. And he did it with the academic credentials of his expert. And that's just, this guy's cooked. There's nothing that this guy is going to say that a jury is not going to question. And the real problem is he's going to be out of a job within a matter of days. Like, that's no joke. He's useless going forward to anyone. And if you're a client of Aperture, you're freaking out if this guy is the one who did anything. So he dragged down the name of the company, who probably is a lot at fault. His LinkedIn profile went dead on their website. If you do look at their website, they're talking about truthfulness and accuracy, which is certainly not this guy. And he damaged this Dr. Welcher, before he ever steps foot in the courtroom, because his opinion is going to rely in substantial part on the data that was checked by Burgess. And Burgess, on top of his academic dishonesty, also screwed up Bites and Bits, which he admitted. And he just called it a mistake. And, he was arguing over words, whether it was a mistake or a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation. And his defense was, I think it was a misunderstanding, not a misrepresentation. If you're an expert witness and that's the conversation you're having on cross-examination, that I screwed something up, but it was just a misunderstanding, not a misrepresentation, which is kind of like, I'm incompetent, but I'm not dirty, when you've already been established to be both. That's tough. I mean, that's just not good. And then he says, I changed my opinion, even though I had new data since March. I just happened to change it, on May 8th. Nobody asked me to do it. I've never done this before. It's the only case this has ever happened.
Yeah.
And then you found out that he actually did speak to Hank Brennan before, tell him about it. And Brennan goes to court the next day and misrepresents the truth to the court. It says it was a surprise when I got the report. Now, he could be parsing words, but what an ethical prosecutor would have done upon learning on May 7th, they would have picked up the telephone and they would have called the defense and said, listen, I don't have the report yet. It's coming, but I want to let you know we're on trial, There's going to be something new, just so you're prepared. And he didn't do that. He didn't do it on May 8th. He didn't do it on May 9th. He didn't do it on May 10th until they got it on May 11th. And then he had the audacity to come in and say, this is totally appropriate. Everything's fine. I didn't know about it. And, oh, by the way, they suppressed ARCA materials from me. So what a mess. Brennan looks terrible. This witness has no credibility and will never work again. The company he works for looks terrible. And the guy he's working with on this case looks terrible. Other than that, I'm sure the prosecution had a good day.
It's true, because she turned down all these voir dires, and I mean, now it looks like it was the best thing ever for the defense that she turned down the voir dire, because this happened in front of the jury instead of the voir dire.
I'm not going that far, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, I mean, obviously this guy looks terrible, but he's still getting out his testimony, which still may be not credible. You don't know how it's going to affect people. I mean, look, to me, this guy is, again, as a witness, he's finished. He's cooked. He's gone. But in a perfect world, if you keep it out altogether and don't even get into this, that's always cleaner. That's better. It's another terrible look for the judge, though. I mean, let's be honest. This is a witness who, if subjected to any kind of dauber or voir dire at some point, even just based upon his credentials and everything else, if this had come out, you'd have to wonder and say, are we really using this guy? What are we doing here? So, on the one hand, it did work out. The jury saw this for what it's worth, but that's just through no fault of anyone other than Brennan. I mean, this whole thing is his fault, all of it. I mean, who puts on a witness like this? How can you do this as a prosecutor? Brennan on a daily basis just gives away his credibility in the eyes of the jury. And so his expert gets tattooed today as a dishonest liar on basic, or he's incompetent, all of that. Now, Brennan is going to have the credibility to get up and come after the ARCA guys and scream and yell that because they got $20,000, they're in bed with the defense. I mean, think of the credibility and moral authority he surrendered today. Okay. You just called a fraud as a witness and you knew it. Okay. You knew he was a fraud and you called him anyway because you didn't even ask him about it. And you better damn well believe on summation, they're going to point that out, that did not come out in direct at all. Because he tried to clean up some of it in direct, the bites and bits and all that stuff, not the academic stuff. He left that out, hoping maybe the defense wouldn't know about it. Who knows? But when he now comes after the defense experts, does he look as credible? I mean, to me, he didn't look very credible anyway, but doesn't he look a little less credible, a little less authoritative, and more just like, you've got to be kidding me, you're a dirtbag? Because that's how he comes off.
Wait, Leslie asked the expert witness, Shanon Burgess, do you know the word mendacity? And Burgess didn't know it. I'm just wondering, I don't think the jury needs to know what the definition is to get the effect on what happened today. But I'm just wondering, are they allowed to look up that word if they wrote it in their notes, if they don't know the definition of mendacity?
No, I mean, they're not. I mean, the evidence is the question and answer. And the evidence is that Burgess doesn't understand the meaning of the word mendacity, which is just lying, dissembling, misrepresent. I mean, it's just another one of those kind of words. No, they're not supposed to look it up. It's kind of a SAT word for lying, if you will. It's not a common thing. But I mean, the jury's got other things to worry about and think about, such as, I mean, this guy is in college or he's not really in college, but I mean, you start thinking of like Tommy Boy, right? I mean, how many years is this guy pursuing a degree? I mean, now Bob never asked the question because there's no need to. 17 years speaks for itself. But just as an observer, wouldn't you like to know, are you enrolled? Have you been enrolled? Are you taking courses? Or are you just kind of stringing this along? And there just comes a point where I guess, you're beating the dead horse and it's twitching and it stops and you just hit it one more time and walk away, which I think is ultimately what he did. But he probably could have dragged that out another 30 minutes if he really wanted to. But I just, for them to use a witness in this case, it's so illustrative of how awful the case is, because, the first time they did it, they used Trooper Paul. And at the time you would have said, I said, he's the worst expert witness I've ever seen. And that's just because he's unqualified. Clearly, that guy was not competent to talk about the subject matter, and he was nervous and he was stuttering because he was nervous. I mean, it was a really just awful experience. And they get a chance to reboot the case and they say, we're going to kick him out and we're going to hire this guy. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I no longer think Trooper Paul is the worst expert witness I've ever seen. It's this guy, because this guy is lying, okay? This guy is deliberately dishonest. This guy appears to be, in great regard, incompetent in terms of, measurements that in your field he ought to know. This guy also tried to explain, well, there's just mistakes in my resume. There's this. And I'm not sure how that helps him, because if you even take him at face value and say, okay, you're not dishonest, then you are shockingly lazy, incompetent, careless. None of these are good traits for an expert. And, he tried to at some point maybe throw it on his company. Well, I don't know, maybe. But the bottom line is he gets hired for jobs, and he would have you believe that at no time over the course of all these engagements that he's had has he ever thought about, my credentials are off. But if his credentials are not off, why are there all these different documents with different information? He's changing it. I mean, there has to be a reason that he went from a graduate in this program to a graduate in a different program in a different year than he previously claimed that he graduated, to the point where now I'm just pursuing. I mean, there's train wrecks, and then there's, slow motion train wrecks where you can see going over the cliff and the whole thing goes down. I mean, it's
judgment. Yeah, the lack of judgment on this guy. Because think about it, like
but
there might be a lot of jobs where you might be able to fudge your credentials, but when you're in court facing defense attorneys, like you got to be insane, and probably prosecutors in some cases, right? Sometimes these guys are witnesses for the defense, so like either way, you're facing these legal sharks and their research teams. I can't imagine lying with that type of position. It's insane. It's totally insane. How do you think this happens at all? Like, is this just like 1 in a million, or I never would expect this to happen like this. Did I lose Mark, or is it me? Mark froze. All right, Mark, I think you froze. We're gonna.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. You're back. You're back. Cool.
You were saying, I think you were saying, have I ever seen anything like this, or does this happen?
Yes.
No, no, it doesn't happen. I mean, people lie on their resumes, and in real life, you see these kinds of things, but someone like him in a reputable forensics company, supposedly, at least until about 5 hours ago, in a case like this, everyone's watching. It's on the radar. It's on TV. There's a million online sleuths who are going to look you up, that kind of thing. Given the issue that he's testifying to, which is pretty much the most important issue in the case at this point, they're trying to move the timeline, and they're trying to explain how it happened. And the guy that they're going to have say, I've done this for the first time in this case because there's a built-in variance that we're allowed to think about, and here it is. And the guy you're going to have do that, and you're supposed to believe, is the guy who's been lying and dissembling about his credentials for almost 20 years. That's
Shocking.
A winning formula. And what needs to be understood is, as awful as it is, the real loser here is Brennan. Okay. What do you think the jury is going to think of him, or what they already think of him? And I'm telling you, his cross-examinations of the defense experts are going to be neutered, and they're going to be saying, who the hell are you to get so righteously indignant given the fast one you tried to pull on us? You hid Proctor from us. That's a whole different thing. That's just a strategy. This is much worse. I mean, you tried to sneak in a dishonest expert because the jury's going to have to believe that's the only person you could find who was willing to do what you needed to do. But even that needed to be altered mid-trial for the first time in his career to just conveniently fit right in after the timeline that Brennan claims is going to carry the day. And the damage that this witness will do, not only to himself, you can't ignore this. It's going to be terrible for this Welcher guy who's supposed
So I was
to.
going to ask, what do you think about that? Because will they even call him now? Because he's from the same company.
They have to. If they don't call him, they might as well pack up their bag, go home, and dismiss. No, I mean, the train has left the station. What are they going to do? This is the guy who they want to finish in their mind, finish strong, and have him say, we've linked this triggering event to the car going at reverse at this time, and I'm going to tell you about all the other experiments that I did which show blah blah blah, therefore she's guilty. And the problem is, you just keep going back. You take somebody like Welcher and you say, even if you assume that he's credible on the surface, even if you don't doubt what he's telling you and you find it logical, every scientific experiment relies upon the conditions precedent that you have to accept to do it. And one of the facts that he's accepting is that Burgess's data of the triggering event, 1162.2, whatever, is accurate. And there's a lot of reason why to question anything that this guy says. And then Welcher is also a vice president for the company, apparently. So he's got probably a little more cross-examination than Burgess could handle about the payments. How often do you get performance reviews? I don't know. What is your, best practices for being accurate and making sure you're, not misrepresenting things to client? Does he know what happened with the LinkedIn thing? I mean, either way, this is just such a fiasco for them. And this is how they're going to finish. I mean, if you believe in primacy and recency, they started with Nuttall and they're going to end with these guys. And it kind of makes you scratch your head and say, that's not exactly a strong start and a strong finish.
Not at all. I like this comment from Southern Mom. She says, Welcher better double and triple check his credentials.
I'm assuming his credentials are accurate. I mean, this is like, I don't know, obviously, but this is not the kind of thing that you would expect. But even when it happens, and it's not even in court, just when you hear about it, somebody's a nominee for something and they dig into their background. When they do lie about something, what's really crazy here is that he's not even consistent in his lying. I mean, he's jumping all around with when he graduated or what his degree is or whether I'm in school at all. And you sit there and you say, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, how is this even happening? And, he's claiming, well, there's all these mistakes in my LinkedIn. There's a mistake in my CV. And, I don't remember if I did it or the company did it. And all he's doing, I mean, he's like a suicide bomber hugging his employer and taking them over the cliff with him. I mean, they're all going down as just not reliable, not credible. And the victim in this scenario is going to be the prosecution's case. I mean, they're killing it. I mean, this is the key point for them in proving, that there was an accident and it happened in these circumstances. And all you're thinking about this company is they're not reliable. They hire incompetent and dishonest people, and they don't even, check to make sure their people are up to date. And then somebody, tampered or did something to the guy's LinkedIn account 72 hours after the defense looked at it. Look, that's not good. There's just, you go back to saying this is a case that is one of one. It always has been. It's so freaking weird. It's so embarrassing. Everything is wrong. There's just nothing that's normal with this case. Nothing. And every time you see something that you think is as bad as it could possibly get, you'll never see it again. You get this. And this is just, and to watch it and to see this guy turn beet red. I don't know if you could see a visual with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everyone in the chat and all the comments
was beet red. He looked like he was profusely sweating. He looked like he was really huffing and puffing. And it's almost amazing. It almost felt like he had no idea this was coming. And once again, not
prepared.
You say, what the hell are you doing with these witnesses? Like, are they not prepared? Are you just ignoring the bad stuff? Do you not want your fingerprints on it? But all you need to know with this is that Brennan did not ask him about his academic credentials, and that speaks volumes about what he knew was going on and what he expected would happen. But I got the impression Burgess had no idea what was coming.
That's interesting to think that Hank knew,
He clearly knew.
but Burgess didn't.
There isn't a lawyer in this business who puts on an expert in a subject matter like this that would not elicit academic credentials. Now,
Exactly.
Whether he's embarrassed by it, at the end of the day, your expert has no college degree in a field where you probably should. All right, it's not the end of the world. If that's not bad enough, your expert who has no college degree claims that he's been pursuing one for 17 years. Now that's a red flag. Okay. And again, there could be any number of reasons why someone, again, goes Tommy Boy style or doesn't finish college or takes a break. There's a tragedy in the family, da 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 da. But not 17 years in a field where you're describing yourself as an expert and lying on your CV that you graduated. You can't have this. And they did it, and Brennan did it knowing that this would happen. And there was a better alternative for him. The better alternative is drop the case, dismiss the case. You're being foolish. You're wasting time. You're wasting money. You're wasting resources, taxpayer resources. You're bringing a defendant through the ringer who, in a legal sense, doesn't deserve it based on the evidence that there is. Yes, you have to have tough conversations with family members and that sort of thing who expect you to do it. But if you can't get an expert other than this guy, then you need to reevaluate your life choices, because this is not what you do. And this is the guy instead of Trooper Paul. I mean, I can't believe the experts they've had in this case to try to prove reconstruction and car accidents. It's no other words. I don't know what else to say.
Hard to describe after today. Today was just one of those days where you're just like, did this really happen? Did I just watch that? Did that? Emma says, a question, what do you think about Hank saying he was surprised to receive the new report, which is a lie, question mark?
Well, what do I think about him saying that? I think he's full of shit. I mean, I think anyone who is an honest broker and analyzing this fairly would recognize that this was brought up last week or whatever it was. And my recollection was that Brennan said, or actually Bob said that, we got a report dated May 8th. We received it on the 11th and da, 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 da. And that when Brennan got up to speak, he said, I was surprised that I got a report. Now, again, he's crafty. Okay. So he may in his mind be saying, well, it's true. I am surprised that I got a report, but not today, Your Honor, a few days ago. That's his craftiness. But the bottom line is he was called by the Aperture people. He was told that he was going to get a report. He did tell them, give me a report. Okay. He did not tell the defense it was coming. He let it sit for day after day and then gave his righteous indignation speech 4 days later, and then also ignored the part of the letter which says per your request. And this is another one of those I don't really care what the answer moment. I don't really care what the answer is moments. Burgess says he wrote a report that said per your request, which of course makes Brennan look like he's lying. But he says, I wasn't requested. I just did a cut and paste job on my first report, which is troubling for an expert in the middle of trial who's moving data around, right, in order to fit the narrative that the DA needs for their case. I mean, either way, Burgess looks like a clown. Brennan looks dishonest and looks like he's sacrificing credibility with the jury. Aperture as a whole looks like they're going into the toilet. Welcher is already 30% discredited before he ever steps foot into the courtroom. You've seen everything else that's already happened in this case. And you look at the whole thing and you just say that this prosecution is a complete farce. All of it.
Funny because the whole thing, it's like you're trying to pretend there's no cover up, right? And you bring in a witness, and the witness is fraudulent. It's just like never ending karma in a way. You know what I mean? It's like you can't get away from it. It
I
just
will, look, if you're going to, again, as the prosecutor, I mean, first of all, this should never happen for a prosecutor. Again, the whole white hat, we're just pursuing justice and we're bringing in experts who have zero credentials, and what little credentials they have, they lie about. I mean, that's the summary of Burgess at this point. And, they bring these people in after, I mean, the amount of gaslighting and righteous indignation for the past several weeks, indeed months, that this prosecutor has had about all this defense misconduct, about all these terrible things. What do you think would have happened, okay, if Brennan learned that Dr. Rentschler of ARCA did not graduate college, or had a typo on his CV that was filed in a case in 2014, in the Eastern District of Virginia, where instead of saying he graduated college in 1992, I'm making that up, I don't know what year, he put 1991. He would be swinging from the chandelier, screaming and yelling about fraud, this and that. And he has sacrificed all of his credibility. Any moral authority that guy fancies himself having is gone, because you just called a lying expert to the stand because you had nobody else, and you knew it, and you hid it from the jury, or tried to hide it from the jury, and then tried to say you didn't know about it, and your own lying expert said you did. These are the people prosecuting. These aren't the so-called sleazy defense attorneys. This is the prosecutor. And again, if you live in that county, I hope
you're paying for it.
You're paying for this.
$1 million plus.
You're probably paying Aperture God knows what for this, for the privilege of destroying the company and destroying the reputations of the people who work there, and destroying your own credibility. So, money well spent. Stupid.
Absolutely. I want to get much more into this, but one thing I want to ask you, and if as much as you can with your guardrails up, because I was like so happy when I heard Aiden broke news today that a bunch of his charges were dismissed. Can you give any type of comment or not on that?
Just very little, just factually. I mean, it's true. The six counts were dismissed. I mean, we're still reading. It's a long opinion from Judge Doolin, so we're still looking at it. But 6 counts were dismissed. What I can say is that all counts involving Michael Proctor and Yuri Buchanan were dismissed.
Excellent. Those should be.
Some other counts involving, alleged conspiracies over license plate data and all of that nonsense was also dismissed. It's very rare that anything gets dismissed pre-trial on a motion to dismiss after there's been an indictment. So the fact that 6 of them are gone is, that's very rare. So that's good. I mean, certainly trimming the fat helps us moving forward. But, beyond that, we're still analyzing it. But it is true, 6 of them were dismissed.
Great news. That's just it makes it easier to focus on what you have left on your plate, I imagine, too. So
it does, although we do lose the opportunity, if there is going to be a trial, of cross-examining, Proctor and Buchanan. So that, from a lawyer's standpoint, that's always a little disappointing.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they didn't want to see.
No.
Maybe that's why.
No, the judge makes his ruling based on what.
The judge. That's right. Yeah, it was the judge this time. So, that's good. Yeah.
No. You want them dismissed. It's not about lawyers cross-examining.
Yeah. No.
You want it dismissed.
Exactly.
So that's
yeah, that's great news. I'm happy about that today. And there's also, we got a bunch of questions too, definitely about what happened today, but there was also something that happened with a woman arrested today for her t-shirt, sweatshirt, her message on her sweatshirt with Randazza there, the buffer zone. I don't know if you saw or heard anything about this today, if you have any comment on that.
I didn't see anything today. I mean, I heard that a woman who was, I guess, given a hard time by the cops last week or something is the same one who they
Yes.
take her shirt off, which is, I mean, that's disgraceful. Had been arrested. I don't know much about it other than on a daily basis, everything that's happening in this case that's coming from law enforcement and authority is just embarrassing on a national and international level. I mean, there's no reason that, outside the courthouse should result in, stormtroopers arresting people for exercising their right to free speech. I know that, I mean, I'm not following it that closely, but I know the buffer zone has been in a state of flux and moved and this and that they're supposed to go back to federal court. But it's hard for me to believe that there's nothing better to do than, once again, spend taxpayer money arresting people because they say that they believe you're corrupt. And when it's the same people arresting you that you're protesting, that makes it all the worse. I mean, it looks terrible.
Say anyone who wants to support Erica, who was apparently arrested today, just because she, what was on her sweatshirt, on the back of her sweatshirt, which, was microdots. One of his sweatshirts, it said something about Norfolk County being corrupt or being led by corrupt people. Just for that statement, they arrested her on her sweatshirt. She's not yelling, she's not screaming, she's not doing a megaphone, just for what's on her sweatshirt. And Mark Randazza is defending her. He witnessed it. There's a fundraiser on his Twitter. I want to thank Jay Woolman too. He's been helpful for me as well with some stuff that happened recently. So I want to thank Randazza and Woolman, the attorneys representing her. And you can kick in to her defense fund. There's a defense fund that they have set up on Randazza's Twitter page. So definitely check that out. Yeah. There's a lot of other questions too about like Welcher, but even this Shanon Burgess. Do you think Burgess? What happens if Burgess doesn't show up tomorrow? Is one of the questions here.
I mean, look, he will show up. I'm sure he's going to have a miserable night. He's a human being. I'm assuming he can't have such little self-awareness that he's unaware of how humiliating, embarrassing this is, how reputationally damaging this is, how career-ending this is. Why did I agree to take this case? All that kind of stuff, I'm sure, to some extent, is going through his head. He'll show up, though. I mean, this is not TV. He'll show up. He could be subpoenaed, he could be compelled. If he didn't show up, then all of his testimony would be stricken, all of it. And of course, Brennan will tell the jury with a straight face that his direct testimony is devastating and shows that, the trigger event matches in being whatever it is he's saying. It's the right trigger event, the car, the time it went on and off and all that stuff. So that would be, as bad as it is for the prosecution, it would be worse if that happened and they lose the evidence altogether. Not that the alternative is good, because he's going to go get cross-examined more tomorrow and he's going to get clubbed over the head even more. And this time when the jury comes in, the minute he sits down, they're going to look at him and say, oh, it's this guy again. Like he is always going to be known as, the academic liar. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Nobody knows literally what a jury is going to do, but when they go deliberate and they start talking about, whether he's credible or not, I mean, what do you think they're going to talk about? You see some of the true believers, trolls, whatever you want to call them, agitators, are really trying to dig into, you saw Baghdad Bob with, they're cross-examining about LinkedIn. That's really important. And you just,
I was wondering what they were saying today, because I just checked my feed just to see what generally my feed is saying, and everyone was just going nuts. Like, I didn't see any of them trolls. Like, what were the trolls saying today? Because I'm wondering, how are they going to try to salvage us? Baghdad Bob, is he the only one? Were there others?
Only him and the guy who calls himself an anonymous lawyer, which suggests to me he's not. Whatever.
Kevin.
DiPietro or whatever his name is basically said, we're cross-examining about LinkedIn. And the response to that is, you better believe we are. Like that, these are just not serious people. He doesn't understand how this works, okay, how credibility works, what the instruction the judge is going to give the jury about whether you want to reject all of the testimony of a witness. What are the factors in considering their credibility? Okay, these are master lawyers who are going to take what happened today and in summation put it into logical English for the jury to understand why they're not reliable. And to see, one guy laughing about LinkedIn and the other, so-called lawyer saying the takeaway today so far is this witness wasn't asked a substantive question about his ultimate opinion, which is, I guess, technically true about his ultimate opinion. But if you think that's the thing, if you're a lawyer, okay, if you're a lawyer and you think the lead from the cross-examination today was that idiot Alessi didn't address anything to challenge the actual opinion, there's no way you're a lawyer. I'm sorry. That just can't be. So you got to put
saying Milli Vanilli wasn't asked to sing a song. Like, isn't that the point? Like, come on.
I mean, there's got to be honest people who don't, obviously don't like Karen or want to believe she's guilty or are praying for a guilty verdict. There's got to be a few of them who at least are intellectually honest and would readily acknowledge what happened today was as close to a death blow to this case that they're going to get, the worst. Okay. And that's on top of all the other problems that they've had. And I mean, to me, this has been a bumpy ride. It's been rocky. There was nothing rocky about this today. This was a face dive. I mean, this was hideous. There's a reason why they're doing this guy last. I mean, Brennan, the more you think about it, the way he tried the case, I get it. He wanted to start with, she said I hit him, in his mind. I'm going to put all that out there. Then his next phase was, she's drunk. I'm going to show she was drunk. And then, he's kind of putting in the rest of, she was drunk, she was driving, all this stuff. And then he's going to try to end up with the science proving that she caused the injury, which is, the most important part of all of this for them. And today was as bad can get for them, because these are issues they have the burden of proof. They've got to be overwhelming with this stuff. It can't just be, well, maybe Burgess is right. It has to be overwhelming. And the guy has zero credibility. Okay. He's a shuckster. He's a liar. He's a fraud. And if he's not those things, because he comes off nice enough, if he's not any of those things that I just said, then he is shockingly incompetent and careless that he's still a shitty expert. There's no good way out here for him.
How about this? Can Brennan be called as a witness in relation to this, do you think?
No, this should have been stuff outside the jury where, again, the defense is asking for all these things to know what's going on. And, they could address it with the judge. But at this point, what is the judge going to do? Nothing. The bottom line is everybody knows what Brennan said in court last week. Okay. He said that I was surprised, clearly giving the impression that he got this report out of the blue and didn't know anything. And that's absolutely false. They spoke. And as I even tweeted the other day, there's no chance in hell that an expert would ever just throw a report at a prosecutor because I went rogue and did it on myself. That's the point that I believe Burgess is not being truthful about. Okay. The idea that he just decided, to review this March report, it's not accurate. And he, as the trial's going on, which he's not watching, by the way, he just happened to do this and just happened to do it on May 8th. I mean, to me, I find that hard to believe. And here's the problem. When the jury's analyzing it, trying to determine, do we believe this or not? What comes up in that analysis? Well, am I giving that guy the benefit of the doubt? Well, the guy lied to you about his academic, the most basic thing. And if he's willing to lie about that, and he's willing to keep that lie going for 17 years and basically lie about everything to get work or whatever, are we just taking his word on this? And most sensible people would say, not to the point where I'm crediting him beyond a reasonable doubt to establish what they need. No, I wouldn't.
Probably not. I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't buy a watch from him at this
No.
point. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
just
the only watch you'd buy for him is like, if he was one of those canals.
Timex.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, Red Sox souvenir, like cheap $5 watch that sell you for like 50. You know what I mean? Because it's got the Red Sox on it. That's about it.
Well, a Red Sox watch right now is worth a lot less than that, but that's a whole nother.
Yeah, yeah. It's on discount now. It's in the discount bin. Building 19's carrying it. What about his testimony and the timeline? Is it believable? Thoughts on the jury seeing it? Let's even remove him. Do you think the jury would just even put any thought into the timeline now based on what he said?
Well, I mean, the problem you have, again, put aside his academic dishonesty. Pretend that didn't happen, although that's a hell of an ask. You can't pretend that didn't happen. But put that aside. He screwed up the gigabytes and gigabits. In that field, how do you do that? I mean, you just that there's no excuse.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. But whatever, get past that too. He basically says that when I did my original work, if I understand this correctly, that I've always been aware, because it's generally accepted, that there could be up to a 60-second variance for clock drift. He basically said that's just a general thing that is floating over these cases all the time. Okay. But yet he paid it no attention. See, this makes no sense to me. And this is why I think he's junk science, and he's not doing science. I think he's just doing deductive, in what his mind is deductive reasoning and changing, but he's not reliable. So he says, I crunched the numbers. I knew there could be a variance because I know that, but I paid no attention to it. So I just came up with the numbers, and they came out different, and I submitted it, and that's the report. That's the evidence. And now we're supposed to believe that the prosecution was satisfied with this up until May 8th, give or take, or May 7th, when he got a call, because, this guy wanted to do his own work. Brennan told you the other day, there's always been a variance. This has always been fair. We're allowed to do this. I have 60 seconds to work with at any time. And then this guy magically decides to go back and say, you know what? Let me think about this, because I'm looking at the report from the defense a month and a half later. Let me go try it with this and see if I go back, if there's a difference between, John O'Keefe's cell phone and the Lexus. And ergo, I'm just going to say, if I do this and that, it all appears to match up. So even though I didn't know it the first time, I'm now going to say there's a variance between 21 and 29 seconds. Take my word for it. That's ultimately what he said. He didn't give a lot of scientific stuff. He just said, well, I just kind of reconfigured, and to me, it kind of lined up. I think that's what he said, if I understood him, which is not really scientific. But he didn't account for it the first time. So in essence, the argument is he was wrong the first time, if you believe him the second time. And what he's doing is he's just throwing himself a lifeline, because we have 60 seconds to work with in any case. So I'm going to use 29 of those. And oh, by the way, I lied about all my academics. I lied about this. My LinkedIn is a mess. I didn't know anything about it. I don't know what gigabytes versus bytes are. I'm going on to my 17th year of trying to get a degree. Take my word for it. The problem they have with everything we just said, which is bad enough, they need to carry the day on this issue. It can't be, I don't know. If the jury says, I don't know, to his new timeline, then you're in reasonable doubt territory, because the original timeline has John O'Keefe's phone doing things after the triggering event. So this is a complete mess. And I don't know why a jury is going to take this guy's explanation as compelling, irrefutable, unassailable proof given all the problems that he has.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it's a problem for them. I mean, they screwed up big time with this.
Where is Judge Bev's grave concern paired with her heavy breathing and shaking while she is watching the Commonwealth put one liar after another on the stand while Alessi effortlessly dismantles them?
I think there is no grave concern. They argued for certain things, and she said, "I find nothing wrong here." So I don't believe she has a grave concern. In her mind, she said, "I'm going to allow it, and I'm going to let or give a robust cross, which is just grill him as hard as you want for as long as you want." And in her mind, she rationalizes that, saying, "See, I did. He's doing a good job." The larger question is, I think, what just popped up on the screen here. I mean, if you want to criticize the judge or you think she looks bad, the real problem with today is that this guy just waltzed into court unvetted, untested, with nothing, and he's a joke of a witness. Whereas, the ARCA witnesses from a very credible firm, they went through 2 grueling voir dires to even be permitted to testify. They were screamed at by the prosecutor. The judge believes that the defense attorneys all acted dishonestly and unethically over this, accuse them of not turning over messages that may or may not exist or may be about nothing really. And she was extremely concerned about that. But now you see the Aperture people, they clearly do not appear to be anywhere near the level of ARCA, which is probably why the United States Justice Department hired the ARCA people way back when.
Not Aperture. Not Aperture.
Not Aperture. And I don't, look, I mean, this company is going to suffer from this. I mean, they have an employee that is clearly not accurately representing himself. And they've either condoned it, covered it up, or been obtuse about it for a long time. And that's not good for future business or past business. They probably have a lot of very angry people who hired them. We look amateur here. So, but do I think the judge finds any grave concerns? No. I mean, do you?
No, fortunately. Nope.
No.
I mean, we've seen her. It's one way, with the defense and not the other way with the prosecution every time. Current resident says, what was her reference about at the end today to Alessi on each time it occurs?
I'm brain farting. What is each time it occurs? What?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't even.
I must have missed that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I might have missed that too.
Question, current resident. Maybe we can find out more info on that later. All right, we asked about the other guy, but what about Welcher?
No.
Is there any chance he'll choose not to testify now, you think?
They'll force him. I mean, they'll stick a subpoena in his chest. I mean, again, the DA has 2 options here. Go down with the ship or, sink it yourself, right? Where in the old days, that was the honorable thing to do, right? Sink your own ship.
Sunk my battleship. Yeah.
I mean, of course he's going to testify. Of course, this guy is probably concerned about looking foolish. Of course, he's probably thinking about how much money is this firm losing and how much reputational damage have they and I suffered as a result of this. But he has no choice but to testify. And at the end of the day, he's relying on the data that was given to him by his own guy. And, so there's multiple ways the jury could reject Welcher's testimony. I don't know if they're going to accept his opinion. But even beyond that, even if they think he's a sound guy, if he's got dubious or unreliable data, how do you credit what he says if he's relying on that? So either way, I mean, it's bad. I mean, this is really bad for the prosecution, like really, really, really bad.
The question often comes up, and I think that we're still at the same spot we always are, but they always ask it. Cop Starter says, I asked Mike and Mark a year ago. I called it then and asked, at what point can we challenge Bev's immunity? It's got to be a really high bar, right, Mark? I mean, like super high.
He has immunity for rulings that she's making unless any judge is shown to literally be fixing case. I mean, I'm not going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
At what point could you say challenge her impartiality? I get that. You know, there's a lot of people think that there's a lot of bias here, which is understandable. And even more people will say there's at least an appearance of bias in her rulings and decisions. And, you know, you see it every day, and it's out there, and it's only getting stronger. But I mean, nothing's happening to her criminally. She's not losing or even civil immunity. She's a judge in a courtroom making decisions. She's basically.
You got to have someone on a wire taking a bribe. I mean, that's how a judge goes down, right? I mean, you got to literally have them taking cash, you know, not stuff like that we're seeing in her court.
No.
Yeah. People can suspect things, but it's a difference between suspecting something and proving it, you know, like, and a lot of times our suspicions are wrong. I mean, a lot of times, you know, it could be just simply bias.
I will certainly say at this point that there is strong reason for people to conclude that there appears to be bias or at least an appearance of it. Okay. The ruling on the expert witnesses, who gets voir dire and who doesn't, I think it's indefensible in terms of how that has worked out. And frankly, for me, I think the reason it ended was because the trial date was approaching. She ran out of time. I think it was indefensible that there wasn't on the pretrial motion to dismiss. I think a lot of the commentary with the objections is indefensible. There was a perfect example today, actually. Not that anyone wants to talk about the DNA guy who testified, and it's probably worth 30 seconds and no more. But, you know, when you're talking about like mitochondrial DNA, which is just maternal lineage DNA, and everybody on that line, you know, you can detect the same mitochondrial DNA. So what the witness basically said was John O'Keefe can't be excluded as a donor of that hair. But, you know, it's consistent. I mean, he's using expert speak to make it sound good. But what he's saying in English is, I can't tell you that's his hair, but it could be because it's in that line. Okay. It's in that maternal line. So, of course, the issue is that could include his mother. That could include his brother. More to the point, it could include the kids that live in his house and who go in that car all the time. So when you saw on cross today and you saw Alan just trying to get out of the expert, who kept giving the stock answer, you know, I cannot exclude, but based upon blah, 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 you know, and he just wouldn't answer in English, which is, you can't say it's John O'Keefe. That's all I'm getting at. In other words, it could be the nephew or even the niece, more likely the nephew, given what the hair looked like, I guess. I don't know. And she kept sustaining when the witness wasn't answering the questions. What she should have been doing is talking to the witness, not the lawyer, and say, answer the question. And then when he finally got the witness to answer yes or no, and Alan was ready to move on, what did the judge do? No.
Sidebar.
Your answer. You can finish your answer, to let him give his stock answer. And you see little things like that. And that is, to lawyers anyway, indicative of an appearance of bias, because there was no reason to do that.
Question right here. Do you think Shannon dealing with Tully is to keep Hank from breaking his ethical boundaries?
No, because I think he's broken them anyway, right? I mean, it appears that he's misrepresenting what happened to the court. He received this information May 7th in the middle of trial and decided, I'm not going to, you know, share it with the defense until May 11th. Why? I mean, why is that? If Brennan had the report May 8th, why didn't he email it to them that same day? Those 3 days can be huge. Witnesses testify, preparation, case moves closer, further to the end. Tully is not a buffer. I mean, if you're suggesting it's like, the family had a lot of buffers, right, Senator? A buffer, right? The family had a lot of buffers. Godfather 2 for some of you, not all of you apparently, but no, Tully doesn't make Brennan immune from this. It keeps him from potentially being a witness. I guess there's some plausibility of denial, but Tully seems to be the guy who sits in on every interview, goes on every trip, went to Texas to drop this thing off instead of putting it in the shipping it, so the taxpayers can pay for that too. Instead of paying for FedEx overnight, you can pay for plane tickets, hotel, and eating and hanging out in Dallas for a day or two. But using Tully doesn't get Brennan off the hook if he did anything. I don't know what he did or didn't do, but no, it doesn't save him.
This one here. You think there's any reasonable possibility that the case will be dismissed?
No. I mean, look, they knowingly called a witness knowing his academic problems today and just said, the hell with it. We have no choice. And we'll just ignore it on direct and hope for the best on cross. If they have that little regard for their own credibility and potentially offending the jury and harming the case, then they're not quitting. There's no chance. I don't see it.
What do you think coming next?
Welcher.
And then after that, are they just going to close the prosecution, or are they going to bring up more witnesses?
I don't think they're going to use any more substantive witnesses. I'm trying to think. I mean, are they missing anyone that they would need? I mean, they called the medical examiner. That went well. They called the Aperture people. That's going well. It seems to me that they're not calling any other police officers, not calling anyone else in the house. I don't know if there's a few odds and end witnesses that they need, but they seem close to being done. I think they have the neurologist that they're going to try to call though also.
So yeah, I think there's another doctor type.
Yeah, I think, and he's going to opine that, how these injuries came to. So I think they've got stuff like that. Other than that, I guess they would save the rest for their rebuttal case.
Lisa, ask a question. I think I know I think I know what you're going to say. Do you think Hank is trying to tank this case in hopes defense will request a mistrial?
No, but if he did something that resulted in the defense asking for a mistrial and it's the prosecution's fault for causing the mistrial, then the case is over. They're not going to get to retry it. So I don't think he's doing that. I think he's trying to win. I mean, look what he's doing. I mean, I think he's crossing every line he can or getting as close to it to try to win and try to make it unfair. I mean, he completely sandbagged the defense last week with even suggesting that we're moving the goalposts on this timeline. No, I think he's doing anything and everything to win. I just think, he may be delusional about how this is going, or maybe we are. I don't know. We're not the jury, but it seems to me that just nothing is going exceptionally well for them with the witnesses they're calling.
Comment about from Joe Flipahead. I saw him giving me some shit. I meant to give him an invite tonight. Because he wants to come on with better. He's mad at me that I've never invited him with you on the show. What do you think? We should give him like a pity, let him up, in case he can yell at me.
No, we can pull him up, but
pull him up. He'll yell at me. Let's.
All right. Well,
I'm gonna invite him up. Let's. I'm gonna put this in the chat. Nobody else call in except for Joe Fliphead.
But the copy and paste from his original report, and then additional analysis. I'm not reading too much into that because I think what he means is I'm using it as a template, and then you change certain things, and he's basically saying I forgot to take out per your request. I don't buy it for the simple reason experts don't go rogue. They don't just continue to do work. Okay. And if this guy did that, then he's an even shittier expert than you thought. I don't want you touching my case until I tell you to touch my case. Like, that's how lawyers are. I don't want you creating reports that I don't know what's coming. The idea that this guy just mid-trial said, hey, I found something, I find that so impossible to believe. That and is he going to bill for all that time? And maybe that is where Bob was trying to go earlier, and he claimed, I don't know anything about the billing. But I don't think any lawyer would believe that this guy is just on his own checking work and coming up with new opinions and calling the DA mid-trial saying, look what I have. That makes no sense.
See if Flip Ahead got the message.
Oh, he'll get the message.
I don't see him. So many comments. It's hard to see who's here. Maybe I'll send him a message on Twitter. We'll put this question up now. How is it ethical for the Commonwealth to leave out half the witnesses' evidence? Is that not shaping the evidence rather than seeking justice?
Well, that's a philosophical question. It's not unethical in a classic sense for him to say, I'm not calling Michael Proctor. The risk is that the jury believe you're not trustworthy because you're hiding stuff from me, or not calling anybody with the last name Albert, which they apparently are not. I mean, they're allowed to do it how they want to do it. They don't have to do what Lally did, for example, which is he just threw everyone up there and said, the hell with it. I mean, that's not a great way to try a case either. So I don't think it's unethical with the way he's doing it. I don't think it's the wise way to do it. I think it's blowing up in his face. Not calling Proctor, I think, is going to come back and bite him in the ass in summation, because I think the defense will call Proctor, and then they will shove it in Brendan's face in front of the jury that, you want all this important evidence. It came from us. I think they're going to do the same thing with Brian Higgins. You only learn this because of us. They don't want you to know things we do, that kind of thing. Will they do it with Brian Albert or people like that? So I don't think it's unethical. I think it's unwise, though, and that Brendan has sacrificed so much credibility with the jury by doing that. But ultimately, what he did today was even worse with Burgess. I mean, it was, if you're going to call the guy, you need to own him. He should have had the guy admit it, that I just screwed up. And even if he says it was a mistake, it wasn't my fault. You need to own these things. You need to own Proctor. You need to be straight with the jury. And the impression Brendan is giving is that, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Never mind the man, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I mean, that seems to be what he's trying to do. And you know what? Toto is opening the curtain, and there's Brendan spinning the gears.
Once you see it, you can never unsee it. Once you see the curtain's been open, you never can unsee that. Once you see Oz, it's like it's over. It's done. You see that guy, and that's it.
Turns out in the movie, in this case, there is no Wizard of Oz, apparently.
None. Yeah, there's nobody behind. Yeah, they open the curtain, and there's a wheel, but nobody's behind it. Like, that's what it seems like. It's like no one's. Mark, did you see the Aperture was the platinum sponsor for the Mass Bar Association 2025? Are you kidding me?
Nothing shocks me at this point. I didn't see that. That's potentially concerning. I'd want to know more about that. Are they sucking up for business? Are they exploiting what they're doing now? We're involved in this big case. I don't know. On the other hand, they're allowed to make money, allowed to do things. The Mass Bar, it's not just a prosecutor association. So, that's interesting to note. And I don't know how much business they've ever done in Massachusetts or anything. They're a Texas company, apparently. I'd never heard of them before today, but it's interesting, but nothing shocks me with that.
Question. I have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe you do. Fan of the Truth says, Mark, do you know about Brennan's jack-up expert witness he was so proud of and blew up during pretrial of Wadir based on no background research by Hank?
What is a jack-up expert?
I know. I'm not sure if he... It sounded interesting, the question. That's why I want to ask it. I'm like, am I missing something? Yeah.
I'm not following what that
I'm
means.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
And I don't remember Bev Bev didn't reject any prosecution witnesses, did she? There wasn't one that got rejected.
No, she just
Yeah.
stopped giving the hearings. She
Yeah,
stopped,
she didn't even have the raw ideas. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's sarcasm. Maybe fan of the truth is being sarcastic there.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Here's a question. They want to know about Lally. Do you think that Lally maybe didn't want to carry on? He wanted to drop the charges, and that's why Hank was brought in
If that's
for the
true,
retrial?
I assume it's not true, because if it was, then Lally would be even more pathetic than most of you probably already think he is. Because if he wanted to drop it because he's a conscientious objector to this, then you shouldn't be participating in it, which he is. He's not a potted plant, as it turns out. He's kind of a watered plant because every now and then he's doing something. But if he legitimately believed that this was a terrible case, then he would be ethically obligated to step away. So no, I don't. I just think he got emasculated, and they kept him around to basically carry Brennan's bag, which I think is unfortunate. And I might have said this to you or someone else the other day. If they are going to let him do witnesses, they really ought to let him do some that are a little more important, because all they're doing is flagging to the jury this witness doesn't mean anything. If they're letting the junior varsity team in to do something every now and then, obviously he's capable. He did the whole first trial by himself. Whatever you think of his skill level or not, that's a lot. That's a ton of work. He did it. So he can handle dealing with these kinds of witnesses. Some of his cross-examinations weren't terrible. He's kind of a boring guy, obviously, but in hindsight, looking back, they'd probably be better if they stuck with him.
It's funny. I was on that RKO the other night, other afternoon, whatever. We go on that show there. And she asked me, Grace Curley. I was just losing my train of thought for a second. Grace Curley asked me the question about, when do you think they decide Adam? This is the hottest question I think I've gotten from her so far. It was only one that kind of stumped me. She's like, when do they decide to use Adam Lally? How do they decide? That was exactly what I said. I said, I feel like they pick the ones who aren't important, like the least important witnesses. Is that kind of how they're doing it, you think? Is that right? If I picked it up, it must be...
No, 100%.
The jury must pick it up, too.
Lally is doing very bland DNA experts, which they're not really that important in the scheme of this case. The DNA is not critical. Some of the blood alcohol stuff, which is really dry. And to be honest with you, the kind of stuff where Brennan says, I don't want to deal with it. If I'm the star lawyer, okay, from the prosecutions, if you're the prosecutor, okay, you're the star lawyer, do you want to spend your time on boring blood alcohol extraction, extrapolation and this and DNA, or do you want to do, the people in the house, Buchanan, Jen McCabe, that kind of stuff? It's human nature. You want to do the good stuff, the interesting stuff. So I think it's just a matter of him saying, you do this.
You kind of answered this earlier, but I wanted maybe you flesh it out a little more. Anita Claimer says, will Brennan cross Archer and the same tone he did at their voir dire?
So this is interesting. I've said, you've heard this before, that before today's fiasco, that it would be a mistake to take his strategic approach with Arca that he took at the hearing. Not just the tone. He will not use the same tone. That would be ridiculous. But even forget the tone, but the same approach. Arca are not biased witnesses just because they eventually established a relationship with the defense, because they're the ones who called them and the first time, and they know more about the case, and they're polite, nice people, and they like each other. That doesn't mean that the opinion, after they were hired by the Justice Department 3 months before they ever met anyone related to the defense or knew who Karen Reed was, and they said, this is our opinion, that doesn't make them biased. Neither does getting $20,000 for travel expenses when they made $1 million or $500,000 before. That's just ridiculous. So I don't think he'll do it in the same tone, but I think now factor in what happened today. Now Brennan is screwed, okay? Because for him to get up and come after the ARCA guys who are going to come off 1,000 times more professional than the guy you dealt with today, who, and I don't mean this in all its disparaging way, but those guys are high-level professional doctors and engineers, and this guy is, pursuing a college degree for 17 years and lying about it. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, this is like men and boys, okay? I mean, this is ridiculous. The jury's going to know what you did with, the Aperture witness. God, I forgot his name already. Shanon
Burgess.
God, it's that memorable.
It's forgettable. It's a forgettable name. I mean, except for Shanon.
So the jury is going to be thinking like, what are you doing? Calling these witnesses now. So Brendan's going to get up a couple weeks later and start prancing around the courtroom, calling these like with that righteous indignation that the ARCA guys are lying because of text messages that they deleted, which, by the way, at the hearing, he asked about those text messages. You really want to ask those questions at the trial? You want to open that door? Because if you try to imply that he deleted text messages for a nefarious reason, he's going to be able to explain why he deleted them. And I don't think you want that because of the wackos online or because of, all these other reasons. I don't think you want that. So, but even if he wants to do all that stuff, I mean, if you're a juror, you're saying this guy had no problem putting on a lying, 17-year college almost graduate who lied about it. That's fine. But he's all upset telling us that these witnesses, these ARCA guys, are not worthy of belief because they had the temerity to send Alan an outline before they testified or whatever the hell it was, or talked on Signal. I mean, be an honest broker to these two stories. Which is more offensive? Witness who lies about his academic credentials and screws up gigabytes and gigs and, claims to now be going to college for 17 years, or doctors who are hired by the unnamed Justice Department, rendered an opinion before they ever met the defense and are not getting paid by the defense at the time they got that opinion, as opposed to Aperture, who's probably getting $500,000 and, buying tables at the, mass bar events and all that. So he's kind of screwed himself on being effective in crossing ARCA with this spectacle of the witness that he had today and the way he handled it.
It's funny with the voir dire of the ARCA guys, they came off so strong. Like they were laughing at him. They were so confident. They were basically laughing at him. Compared to this guy today, he was not laughing. He was not laughing. He was not having a good time.
Not only that, there's just another reality disadvantage. Brennan is outgunned, okay? The bottom line is the defense team is better than the prosecution team. And they all have their roles and they all are doing their things. But a huge advantage for the defense over Brennan is this. Brennan is a really good direct examiner and a good lawyer. And, no jokes. He's obviously been doing this a long time. And he's very good as far as being a lawyer can go to try to get into the discussion with the experts. But he's not that good at it, okay? Alessi is like the experts, okay? Like on the substance and technical stuff. So the way Bob is cross-examining, he's with the experts like toe to toe on the substance, okay? Brennan can't do that. There's no way he's going to be able to do that with Dr. Russell, the dog expert, or Dr. Rentschler or Dr. Wolf. Like, and again, he's an accomplished lawyer. He's a good lawyer. He's probably a very good cross-examiner in front of a jury, but he's not going to be able to compete intellectually in that world with those experts unless he does. That's the difference.
Unless he's amazing. Kaylee says, Mark, if you were defense, would you just start with ARCA to be back up against these fools as the first witness? What do you think?
That's an interest. I mean, I never put much thought into this, but that's an interesting thing. I've always said, and you know this too, that in summation, maybe this time well, let me back up. I think they did it a little backwards last time. I would start with, no car accident, no crime, and go from there. So if that's the approach, you could convince me that there's a strong argument that you start the defense the same way, that you put it right up front, that there's no car accident. And I'll tell you something, the more this question comes up, the more I like this, because if you get the jury thinking there's no car accident, and then you call someone like Michael Proctor, the taillight is really solid in the head of the jurors that it shouldn't be there. Well, how the hell did it get there? And here comes disgraced, terminated Michael Proctor and all of that stuff. So I actually like this. And you've convinced me, yeah, I would strongly consider doing that. Yes. If you had asked me 20 minutes ago, I'd say no. But as I talk myself into this, I think it's actually.
You say yes.
I think
it's a good idea.
It makes a lot of logical sense to establishing the defense. And I think if you have the ARCA guys testify first and you have a lot of power with the jury that there's no car accident here, that's good evidence to have before Higgins, before Proctor, and all these other guys. I like it. You've convinced me.
I got a question here. They wanted to know if the defense was obligated to let the prosecution know about that, about Burgess's educational history.
I think you got to flip that on its head. The question is whether the prosecution was obligated, because if they know that their witness has fabricated his academic credentials, that's exculpatory. Now, before we get all excited and call it Brady material, Brady is a little more complicated than that. Suppress means, that information that's not that may be publicly available, they may not be obligated under Brady, but under the new Rule 14 and other things, if anyone was obligated to disclose this, it would have been the prosecution, because it severely impairs the credibility of the witness. And I don't think any of us would believe that Brennan did not know. And if he says he does, I wouldn't believe him. I would say you're lying. There is no way. This guy is meticulous, thorough. You see the way he tries a case with all the stuff. You don't think that this critical witness, he didn't know that he was a train wreck and a fraud based on what you heard today. If you had any doubt about that, that doubt should have gone away when he did the direct examination and skipped over his academic credentials, but tried to establish every other credential around it. That's a telling. That's Brennan telling on himself. He knew.
That's his standard too. Like, he does this a lot, where he doesn't, like you said, he's so many times he hasn't acknowledged just basic stuff. He's always trying to pretend it doesn't exist. Cover it up.
He does it in a way where he really runs the risk of a jury not crediting him. And there's a lot working against him. He's not charismatic. He doesn't have a great presence. I mean, he's certainly good on his feet. You saw in his opening, he's very good on his feet in terms of his skill. But, there's a difference between being good on your feet and connecting. Alan connects to a jury, right? He's likable. He makes those pregnant pauses and dramatic tone changes where, Brennan just monotone drones on through the whole thing and it all sounds together. That's not to say he's not a good lawyer, but the point is he's at a natural disadvantage in the jury wanting to like one or the other. Alan's much more likable and charismatic and comes off, to me, much better in front of a jury. And that's just on their manner of presentation. Now you fact in, you're hiding this from me, you're hiding that from me, you didn't tell me this. Why is the defense telling me that? He's got problems with this case in so many ways. And I don't think the jury, to the extent they like him now, by the time it all comes out and you get the summations, they're really not going to like him, and the real reason they're not going to like him is because they're not going to trust him.
Talk about one of the other problems he just had was the medical examiner. He put her on the stand, no cause of death determination.
No manner of death.
Yeah, no manner of death. Excuse me. How do you think that played with the jury?
Well, up until today, if you had said, what is the biggest problem the prosecution has had, in my view, in a case full of problems, and I would have told you that the medical examiner was an unmitigated disaster for them. Now, after what happened today, I kind of want to see the end of the cross. This is probably worse because it goes to the other things. But with the medical examiner, everybody knows there are these 5 manners of death, natural, accident, suicide, homicide, whatever. The problem they have here is homicide is just a legal term. It's not an editorial term. Not every homicide is a crime. A homicide is just when one person causes the death of another person, but it could be self-defense. That could be justifiable homicide, for example. But the problem is when the doctor looked at John O'Keefe in autopsy, and after being peppered with information, which Brennan foolishly brought out on redirect, which only helped the defense, and being fully aware of all these circumstances, could not tell you the manner of death. And the critical distinction with that is you have to look at homicide, couldn't tell you that. Accident, couldn't exclude that. Okay? So if she can't differentiate between homicide and accident, what an accident could be, the guy, was out drunk and slipped on the ice and banged his head. That could be an accident, right? She couldn't even tell you that this was a homicide, and I'm able to eliminate that. And if there's no homicide that she can tell you with any degree of confidence, murder is the most aggravated form of homicide. Manslaughter is a higher form of negligent homicide, for example, at least by New York standards. So if the medical examiner can't even tell you that there was a homicide, you're giving it up to the defense to say, never mind the fact that Karen didn't do this. They can't even prove to you anybody did this. Now, we can speculate who did what, but at the end of the day, their own medical expert is saying, I can't tell you definitively that anybody harmed John O'Keefe. That's bad. That's real bad. And then you have not only that, but you have injuries that she said were, in her view, not what you'd expect with a car accident. As far as the hypothermia, he got her a little bit on that. That could have been alcohol related. I mean, look, John O'Keefe appears to have had an alcohol issue based on a lot of things you've seen. That could explain some of the Wishletsky or whatever the hell it was spots. The injuries on his face, very good cross-examination establishing that could not have come from banging your head on the ground, that those are different injuries. So the medical examiner was a horrible witness for the prosecution. And I suspect that they called that one because they felt nervous about how harm they got by using Buchanan for all the police. And they felt sensitive that at some point, the jury's not going to trust us if we don't put forth the evidence. So, the last several days where they've had the medical examiner and Burgess, I mean, these are rough days
Times.
in the science part of the case for the DA so far.
What about this? And I wonder if this would change your viewpoint on the Brennan stuff, because Austin Brown says, do you think Hank Brennan didn't know until people posted about it on Twitter right before SB took the stand?
Well, if that's the case, then I feel even worse about Brennan. I mean, how could you not know this? The resume that Burgess or CV that Burgess used in this case when he was hired is actually, the accurate one. It says, pursuing.
Associates.
Okay. So if I go back to my prosecutor mode and I'm considering hiring an expert, what's the first thing you want to see? CV. All right. And I'm going to review it and I'm going to talk to other people and we're all going to yellow highlight that and say, we're hiring an expert for this. And wait a minute, he doesn't have a college degree. That doesn't mean I'm saying I don't want to talk to him, but I'm flagging that. And I'm saying, what's that all about? Can you explain that? It's very common when you get an expert, you look into their background, you look into their prior cases that they've testified. You want to know, are they going to get cross-examined? Do you recall testifying in the case of, Frick versus Frack in Tennessee in 2015? And, that kind of thing. You want to look at that. So you're going to look at their credentials. And if people could go on the internet and see that his LinkedIn didn't match the Aperture website and didn't match the CV that he submitted Brennan, meaning all three are different. And there's actually more than three. But all you had to do is click on their website, click on his LinkedIn, look at the publicly filed documents in this case. If he missed that, then he's pathetic. And I don't believe that he missed it. I don't believe he's too experienced. You don't just hire experts, off the expert tree and say, as long as you tell me what you want to hear, I don't need to know how credentialed you are. I mean, that's just impossible to me. That he wouldn't know that. I can't accept that he would not know that.
Question here from Trash Bass or Trash Bays. Do you think Karen Reed might go into law after this?
You got to ask her. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll ask her next time. I don't know, but maybe. But I have no idea. I mean, at this point, I think she's focused on what she should be focused on, which is getting the hell out of this, getting acquitted, and. But if she's going to go into law after this, when this is over, I would suggest you go into plaintiff's work because I'm sure that's where their focus will be when this is over.
Yeah, definitely get some money back. How about this from John? Would the ARCA witness do this for free to stick it to the Commonwealth?
Again, you'd have to ask them. I doubt it. They're just professionals. They get paid, and normally they have no dog in the fight. And they would say, this is what it's going to cost. And then they would look at you and the pressure would be on you to come up with it. And, they do fundraisers and other things, and that's how they come up with it. But, might they give them a preferred rate? Maybe. I don't know. But no, I don't think you can expect experts who are not lawyers. Lawyers are invested in the fight. Experts are experts. They're hired to give, their opinion through science in an unbiased way, but they're not attached literally. So there are times where you can get lawyers emotionally to say, I'm going to do this because I'm offended. It's the right thing to do. It's an interesting case, all that. Experts, usually not.
Yeah, especially attorneys or business owners where like these ARCA witnesses, they're employees. They're working for a company. Their company's not going to approve for an employee to work for free.
Very good point. It would not be their call. It would be, the people running the outfit. They would be the ones making the call. But I don't think
how that goes. Yeah, then no company's going to say we're giving away our workers for free. I mean, unless like if it's for a charity or something, cancer or something for a day. Wonder 5 says, should the defense call Tully now too? His hands are everywhere, and he's lost his position. Been demoted, I guess.
I mean, you could. If I'm calling Tully, it's really about Jennifer McCabe, at least so far. She made 2 inconsistent statements to him that she denies making. She just denies it. So if I was going to call him, I would definitely do it for that, and maybe a few other inconsistent statements, ask about his involvement with Nuttall, how he somehow all of a sudden remembered, 3 eye hit-ems instead of 2. But as I'm sitting here, would I actually do it? Maybe. I would call some witnesses, it's almost like you forgot. It feels like a year ago. There are law enforcement people and others that I would call to finish the impeachment of Jennifer McCabe. I would call the female trooper who, Jennifer McCabe said she was sitting in the car when we were praying and Google searching. Tully is one, Proctor is another. She made all these statements. You could do this with the Canton police if you wanted to. I mean, I think you need to finish the impeachment of her, which I'm not sure they did the first time.
The big thing is to take Jennifer McCabe down, you think is the big focus for the defense witnesses?
She clearly, in the defense's argument of what's going on here, is the quarterback of the frame job and the I hit him and the taillight and this. And she said repeatedly, I hit him 13, 14 times to like a million different cops and in the grand jury and to this. And every single report of her interview or transcript from sworn testimony is the exact opposite of what she says. It's literally corroborated nowhere. And if you're concerned about their claim that I hit him is real evidence, then the best way to knock it out is to knock her out. And, they went after her and she just denies it. I mean, that's just how she is. You could tell her till the cows come home, you didn't say this. And she's like, I don't care what it says. I said it. That's just how she is. Okay. She's a difficult witness. So the way you finish the impeachment of her is you call the cops, you build them up about how accurate they are. And they look at their report and, they say, I wrote down whatever I was told and I did my best. And no, she didn't tell me because I would have written it down. And that's how you do it. Now, they may feel it's not necessary, but I would do it. But that's just me.
You want to hear a tooth joke or not? This is probably too much. No, we don't.
Depends.
Privately. Oh, you do? All right. We'll put it up. If it's too much, let me know. Deb says, Mike, could you ask Mark what happens to her if they take Jen and her tooth out?
I don't comment on the witnesses' physical appearances and that.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know why that was funny. It shouldn't be. I don't know. You guys, I'm laughing at inappropriate things. Yeah, Mark's right. We shouldn't be.
I think the witnesses, the cops, whoever.
I don't want to get in trouble either. I don't want to.
If you think they're lying, then you should criticize them for that. But how they look,
better.
I don't care.
You're right. Especially teeth. I've had bad teeth. Believe me. I've had a lot of. Mark knows how many times I've been in the dentist seat the last couple of years. Misty says, Mark, did you see Olivia's post of the virtue signaling Bev did? And Hank objects. Then her huge smile.
No, I didn't. I mean, I see most of Olivia's stuff because it's very good. I didn't see that, though. That one I didn't see. But, I mean, I get it. People have been complaining about this stuff repeatedly.
The bias. The bias, we keep saying. We keep bringing up bias. We got a bunch of questions about this. This always comes up. Will Jackson let the jury know that ARCA is not an insurance company?
Well, yeah. I mean, they'll testify that we are, an accident reconstruction or whatever firm. I think that the issue you mean is that they were not hired by an insurance company. Yes, I think that will definitely come out. Has to. I mean, you have to be. If she's not going to let them say it was the U.S. government, you have to make it clear that the agency or entity that hired them had absolutely nothing to do with the defense, did not even know who the defense was at that time, did not even know the name Karen Reed, and that they are just an entirely different animal than us. If she's not going to let them say that the Justice Department did it.
But she should. I feel like at this point. That's my opinion. Jay Tizzo says, Mark, where in the text stream data is the 3-point turn event or the backup event? Shanon Burgess only showed a power up and power down event. Help me understand how he can testify to this.
Well, he was clunky. I mean, again, you didn't see a lot of science as much as just kind of like his own deductive reasoning based on looking at the clock of this, comparing it to that. Um, yeah, and you'll also notice that a few times, and you've seen this with Brennan and other experts, he's asked for the ultimate opinion early and been sustained because he hasn't gotten out anything. And you saw it, I think, at least twice today. He had a hard, he had, I think it was Jessica Hyde was the other one he had a problem with doing this. He had a real hard time getting this guy to get his opinions out, and he had to do more. Um, I don't think Burgess, all these other issues aside, was, at least so far, that compelling. I mean, we'll see how he holds up on cross. Maybe you'll get a better idea. I mean, cross on the substance of what he did, not his academic problems. But a lot of what he did seemed very conclusory and not necessarily wonky science that this is what this is, other than, I looked at the data and there was an event at this time and that's what it tells me. I mean, I didn't follow too much of the science of what he's saying. I mean, I heard his conclusions and what they meant, but he's been damaged heavily today, and we'll see what happens tomorrow when he probably gets confronted directly on his work, separate and apart from his academic problems.
I keep seeing this brought up today. Why ain't no one talking about the Lexus they bought this guy? They buy him a Lexus? I didn't even hear about this. They buy him one?
Say the arc that Aperture had to use a second car because they couldn't use hers, but I mean, they used the SD card from hers. I'm not reading into that. I mean, to me, I didn't think that was much of anything, but we'll see. Maybe they'll ask him that tomorrow.
Again, this is the other part about ARCA. Everyone wants to know, is there some way you see, Mark, this could potentially lead to a question from Hank that would open the door to ARCA being disclosed?
I mean, maybe. I mean, look, the reality is it's probably already open, but in this court, that's not how it works. I mean, you've heard about the feds, you've heard about the past trial. At this point, I think they ought to rip the Band-Aid off and just stop talking about that other agency. It's the feds who interviewed people, who hired DOJ, who hired ARCA. Yeah, he could open the door to that. I mean, he hasn't done it yet through these guys, but it really depends on how he is on cross. But on direct, at least as we stand here now, the defense is just going to have to establish that they're a separate agency, separate and apart from anybody associated with the defense. That's really all they can do right now.
Describe this right now. Julie Grant and CTV personal or Court TV personal X still thinks guilty, and it was good for the Commonwealth today. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know what her deal is, other than, I wouldn't consider it a good thing if you kind of get lumped in the Wendy Murphy, Coffin Dafford, or DiPietro club, which is kind of where Julie Grant, for some reason, which I don't understand, slots into. I mean, her and DiPietro have these conversations on Court TV that are basically, the Hank Brennan worship squad. It's embarrassing. I did see one of her tweets today where she, this, now in all fairness, this was during the direct, or at the end of the direct before the cross, about, oh my God, boom, this is huge. Like, and the idea that today was a good day for the prosecution, she's a lawyer and a former prosecutor, so she ought to know better. Okay. Again, I understand like the DiPietros of the world who are just there to be clowns. And, I mean, there's a reason why he's called Baghdad Bob, and they're just going to say what they want because they have an agenda. But, when you're a host of a show that's literally called Court TV, or a network that's literally called Court TV, that people look for legal analysis, and you're a lawyer and a former prosecutor, I would think for your own credibility, you would be better than that, and better than having the type of guests like, DiPietro that she has on. But I mean, I don't know what it is. To me, it's bizarre
yeah.
because these people that she's associating with online, and at least the one guy on her show, they're not credible and they're not serious. They're not.
They're not popular either. I
No,
mean, that's the other aspect. You think you'd be on TV, you'd want someone who actually is popular, so you get more eyeballs. Like, isn't that what Oprah used to do? And what's her name? Remember the lady from 2020? She used to always get the interviews. Barbara Walters. Like, you'd think you'd get the ones that people actually want to watch. Who wants to watch John DePietro? Nobody.
You know what?
That's why he's Rhode Island radio.
But he was on Court TV at night the other day too, it's bizarre.
I don't get it. Nobody's tuning in for Court TV to see DePietro. I'm telling you,
they called me a few times to go on that nighttime Court TV show in the past few weeks, and I mean, sometimes I've been generally available, other times not. But my first question is, it depends who's going
on. Who's on there?
I mean, I'm not going on with that clown. I'm not going on with the attic guy. I'm not going on with, Coffin Daffer or anything like that, which is, whatever. That's just my choice. Some people do. They're willing to do it. I just think it's not serious. But I did see when they had their show the other night, they had DePietro on, and I was surprised. I just thought that made no sense to me. I mean, he's just not serious. He goes on Court TV and tries to sound like an analyst, but he spends half the day acting like a clown and needling and mocking. He's just a joke.
He really is. It's a good question. Can Bev change her opinion of letting Welcher have a second bite at the apple?
Meaning what exactly?
I think weigh into more than one thing.
Yeah, she could. She probably should. Yeah. Look, look at Burgess today. He started getting into cell phone stuff, right? Now, he said that part of his expertise is cell phones and whatever, but there was no voir dire or anything to make sure that he was qualified, and she let him do it over objection. So maybe they could. Although, does it always work both directions in this case? We'll see.
It usually doesn't. This is a funny one. Didn't he say he had a BS on his direct?
I don't think he said he had a Bachelor of Science. My recollection, because I was geared up to listen to this. I mean, a lot of the day I just have on in the background, but I wanted for this guy, it was kind of like I really wanted to see this. My recollection was that Brennan deliberately danced around his academic credentials, and I probably even tweeted about that said that wait for that's big. That's a tell.
About this one here, actually that's not the one I wanted, but we'll read it anyways. Full Melt Hash Value said, shouldn't Shannon be struck as an expert and his testimony to his testing be not allowed after this was all revealed?
No, at this point, it goes to his credibility, and the jury will have to determine whether his testimony about his academic credentials and his explanations for why he had so many inaccurate representations of them, what weight to give them those issues to his credibility. And if his credibility is poor, what weight to give any of his testimony. But no, it's a question for the jury at this point. She's not striking his testimony because he's a ridiculous witness. It's not her job. I mean, look, in hindsight, this guy, one could argue, is not qualified. Maybe he is. He does give seminars. He's written papers. I mean, it's a little more complicated than just assuming because he doesn't have a degree that he's not qualified. That's not really the issue. The issue is he's a fraud. I mean, he lied, in my view, about everything that he had done. His explanation is it's mistake after mistake. I didn't know, which I don't think helps him as a great expert, but his credibility is an issue for the fact finder, which is the jury.
Question I was looking for from Cat B says, Mark, would you say we're in mistrial territory given the events of today? Is that appropriate here?
Not today, maybe before today. I mean, I would have strongly considered asking for a mistrial with this moving the goalpost nonsense. Um, you know, and the problem is the judge doesn't take evidence. If we went back a day or to the end of last week where the defense was complaining about getting sandbagged and Brennan's saying I'm allowed to do this and I didn't know, and we then come to learn that, oh, you did know, you did speak to Burgess. If she does a voir dire and these facts come out, that arguably supports a mistrial application. But at this point, they didn't make it. They've gone on with the examination, so that ship sailed and they're past it. So no, but just because this witness spontaneously combusted on cross today doesn't mean that there should be a mistrial. What it means is the defense had a really good day and has a lot to work with to show the jury in summation that he's not worthy of belief.
Big one for Brennan. And I wonder what you would do, Mark, here. Arker is my kryptonite says, at this point, what can Brennan even say in a closing?
No, I wouldn't be given a prosecution closing in this case because I don't even think there should have been an indictment. So, I mean, that's tough. But if we're going to play the game with him in terms of what do you say about this guy, he's going to gaslight. Okay. And don't underestimate how good at that he is. He's the best I've ever seen. So he's going to tell the jury that the defense was trying to focus on this and distract you and, doing all that kind of stuff. But his opinion is solid. It's supported by the data. Don't worry about the other stuff. That he's just going to try to ignore the fact that the guy lied. He's not credible. His explanations for it were really not good. And that he screwed up gigabytes and bytes. He then said he formed an opinion knowing, knowing there was a variance, ignored it, then came back in the middle of trial and serendipitously just decided, I'm going to go back and check. And wouldn't you know it, I've determined of the 60-second variance, it fits perfectly for this. And the DA is going to use this. And that's why this is solid. That's what he's going to try to argue, but I don't think that's going to be very compelling, but that's what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to say that these are all slimy defense tactics when the reality is the slime's coming from the other side of the courtroom, but that's what he's going to argue.
Jade Shock Blast wants to know if there is a second mistrial, can they request Bev doesn't get a third bite at the apple?
So after the first trial, this question was asked, and the answer was absolutely not. If there were a third trial, the answer is I'm absolutely saying yes, I would make that application. And I would actually consider another motion on an appearance of bias. Okay. And I would laundry list for 40 pages what people perceive to be the rulings on the hearings, the denials of this, you'd have to make it all. And I would make that application. I would not have made that after the first one. This time I would.
This time you would.
Yep.
Why this time and not last time?
Because I think the appearance of bias at this point is undeniable. Appearance. I didn't say actual appearance. The rulings are becoming too one-sided. It's just happening too much in a way that strikes me that there is certainly an appearance that reasonable people could say that she looks biased. And this case is too important if it's going to get tried a third time to have that even being in the soup. And it appears to be getting worse and worse. And there's a lot more evidence of this time around that there wasn't the last time around. What I thought what she did with the defense lawyers during the pretrial hearings related to the ARCA stuff, calling them to the carpet, telling them that they were unethical, making them take blood oaths not to do anything wrong, stating that she had grave concerns, knowing that was going to be reported a couple of weeks before trial, when it turns out the ARCA stuff was nothing. They did nothing wrong with the ARCA stuff. This is too much. That, like, I believe that if this were to be tried again, it ought to be a new judge.
I would hope so. I mean, that's my biggest fear, is that we have another mistrial. I think that's still very likely, unfortunately.
The argument for asking for recusal on an appearance of bias is much, much stronger today than it was last July and August after the first trial. Things have happened since then which appear to me hard to rationalize, like some of the rulings and some of the comments that have been made about the defense attorneys and things that have ended up getting put out there. I mean, I think the argument is a lot stronger.
We don't really know what happened, but something happened. I mean, with this, with the jury, they're being apparently we're instructed not to show there may be emotion so much in court. So some people who have said online, the whisper campaigns, Ginger Mint is referring to that, says, do you guys talk about the juror who allegedly went to the judge to ask that objections be less frequent? Sorry, I came in late. Now I'm going to say we have no evidence that any juror went to the judge. I kind of doubt that. What do you think, Mark?
I doubt that. But this kind of dovetails with the last point. You know, I don't know if a juror went to the judge and said about objections. I don't think any juror would ever tell the judge, here's what you should be doing with objections. Okay. I find that hard to believe. But that little thing that you saw last week where the judge was telling the jury, you know, don't react, don't emote.
Yes,
that in my view, that was entirely improper. Okay. The jury are the fact finders. They don't know what's coming. They shouldn't be thinking about how am I conducting myself. They should be paying attention. And if something crazy happens, good or bad, and they just react on the fly, it happens. Okay. Some jurors cry when they see horrible photos or whatever. I don't think a judge should be telling the jury how to listen to evidence and what they should be doing. That I've never seen that. What I have seen is telling the peanut gallery. Now, there's a lot of facial reactions and a lot of stuff in the last trial, in this one, that's going on in the peanut gallery that is not being told, at least not publicly. Okay. And I don't, you know, maybe it's being done privately. I don't know. But if it is, it's not stopping. And you're in a real tough courtroom, and you're in a courtroom, which is such a terrible courtroom that you can't even fit that, you know, the two sides side by side where they ought to be. So you have in this case, the prosecution side, if you will, the O'Keefes are right across from the jury. And if they're making reactions or rolling eyes or things like that, that's not good. But so the judge should tell them to stop that. And, you know, you don't want the jury to be influenced, but to tell the jury to not react or not make faces or noises unless they're being what I would call inappropriate, like talking out loud or saying that's bullshit, you know, things like that. That's not appropriate. But
they're acting like Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It should be fine.
In 26 plus years, I've never heard a judge tell the jury, you know, you be careful about what you show in terms of no poker face. I don't think that's appropriate at all.
I'm glad you brought that up, that the peanut gallery, they've been acting up and she said nothing. You know, and it's one side of the peanut gallery. You know, it's not both sides. I mean, I've never seen the Reed family do any shit. Like, no. They don't do anything. They're very stoic, and it's that other side. And she never says anything to them, it seems like. We heard that maybe something was said. I don't know. We heard a rumor about that, too. But it's funny that she would go after the jury, that's just out of pocket.
It's look, anytime you see something that you've never seen before, and again, this case is one of one. It's crazy. There's nothing normal about it. And there's just incident after incident after incident that's not normal. This isn't the biggest one in the world, but it is something that is shocking to see. As far as any facial reactions, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, the O'Keefe they're the ones on TV all the time because it's like looking right at them. But yeah, no, I've never seen anything when they pan over to the other side. But I don't usually what a judge would do if there were faces being made in a courtroom, which that I've heard many times, like where people are not. What a good judge would do, excuse me, is not tell one side, just say to everyone in the audience, no faces, no whatever, but not single anyone out.
Appropriate. That's the best way to handle it.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's definitely what she said to the jury. There's no way around that.
Now, going forward, the defense is going to be calling witnesses soon, we expect. Which witnesses? I think we've gone over this. Has it changed at all? Which witnesses do you think the defense should be calling from that prosecution list that didn't get called? The proctors, which ones should they call, do you think?
So I'm definitely calling Proctor. I'm definitely calling Brian Higgins. I'm definitely calling Brian Albert. Well, I'm really losing my voice.
Talking a lot.
Well, that's why I have these things. I'm strongly considering Nicole Albert. I'd be thinking about Matthew McCabe.
Gotta have him. Gotta have Matt. I just, the text messages. I want to see Matt McCabe so bad back on the stand.
But his story is highly synchronized to his wife's story.
Right.
And they're the only two people in the house who are looking out the window and see all. I mean, if you, it's and seeing the car, but definitely the text messages about they're over at that house and all that. Who else on their list am I calling? I mean, look, I'm not calling Colin Albert. I'm not calling Caitlin Albert. I'm not calling. Who else is in there? I'm not calling Julie Nagel. It's very shocking that the prosecution is not, because she, saw the blob, but they're not calling her. I'm not calling Brian Albert Jr. I'm not calling, there's just no need.
Kelleher across the street. Or the other neighbors, 32.
I'm definitely, in my view, calling the neighbors. Okay. For a couple of reasons. Number one, the fire hydrant is really close to their house and their property line. And if you believe the prosecution's theory of the case, the car accident, if she started out, they say it's like 60 feet, right? And it ends up in front of the flagpole or by the flagpole, that's where the point of impact would have been.
Yeah.
Then, not that I've ever measured the street, but that means the majority of the act of flooring it would be right in front of the neighbor's house, not the Albert's house. She, the throwing it in reverse would have been in front of the other house. So if that's the case, and the prosecution theory has been that for a long time, no one's ever come and interviewed them, apparently. Now, if you want to know what the hell happened, why wouldn't you do that? The other thing is this, and this has been put out online and people have seen this. There are pictures at about 6 something in the morning, wouldn't you know it, from the people who live in the neighbor's house who woke up because they did hear the noise and saw what was going on outside. And they took photos of the fire engines, the ambulance, and you can see the fire hydrant, the flagpole. But what you can also see, as opposed to what happened the night before when it happened in front of their house, all the activity is much closer to the Albert house, yet the neighbors who are much farther away woke up and came out. But Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, and the dog, apparently, nothing. So yeah, I would call the neighbors. I would consider calling Kelleher, although I don't know if I would do it or not. I'd think about it. Um, who else is on their list that or
But there was a witness that we all liked last time,
oh
but
Lucky. I'm calling
yeah, but
plow
the
driver.
jurors didn't seem to like him last time. You would call him?
Oh yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why wouldn't you call him? I mean, look, he appears earnest is the best word I could use for him. Okay. He knows the Alberts. He used to work with Chris Albert, right? Or one of them. I don't know.
I think so. Something like that. He's got relationships with them. He knows who they are.
Right? He said he saw what he saw, and he drives that Frankenstein truck that lights up the whole neighborhood, and he didn't see anybody on the lawn. And to me, he comes off as complete. I mean, I'm not putting too much stock into, well, the last jury said at some point you've got to go with your gut and reality. It's a different jury, different people, different case. I would absolutely call him.
What about this one from V, the tow guy, who didn't get called last time? I don't know why they didn't call him last time.
It depends. I mean, I'd have to know more about the tow guy.
Right.
Did he do what tow drivers usually do, which is examine the car? I don't know if he did or he didn't. The car is covered in snow. Maybe he's not thinking about it. I mean, by all accounts, from what we've heard online and whatnot, he didn't observe any damage, which is interesting. But why are you calling him beyond that? I don't know. The Dighton police officers, I mean, goes hand in hand with the tow driver. Maybe, he did testify last time for the prosecution, and he basically, I think, described more crack than anything else. I don't think they have anyone to talk about. I could be wrong. I don't know. I've never understood why there's not more emphasis on the substance of the taillight, the polycarbonate nature of it, and
Strength of it.
testimony about whether a light made of that material would be more apt to shatter or puncture. And my understanding is puncture. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but it seems to defy all logic and common sense as a layperson that if we did an experiment and said, I want you to floor the car 25 miles an hour, and I'm just going to stick my arm out, even wrench it up, whatever, but you're not going to hit me straight on. You're going to hit me off the side, that I'm somehow going to shatter the taillight as opposed to just shatter my arm. And that makes no sense to me. But as far as I know, I don't think I don't know if that's within the purview of the ARCA people or not. I don't know.
Bruce Lee. That's the only one who would be able to do something like that. I'm convinced. Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I wonder about the ARCA guys. Where they could actually speak on that. The plastic, how strong it is. You think that would be allowed?
I don't know, but it's testimony. However, I had to get it. I'd want to do it. I would definitely. To me, I would want that out there.
It's a good comment. One of the last ones tonight to leave it on. Kylie Cosmo says, I personally think the new Higgins footage makes a huge impact and that we needed it last trial. Thoughts on its effectiveness? What do you think about the Higgins video footage that we got?
Well, the first comment is it's disgraceful that this was not disclosed before the first trial. That is an egregious discovery violation at minimum and a Brady violation at most. I mean, that was clearly discoverable evidence that they didn't turn over at any time until after the trial. I think the Higgins footage, this trial, assuming they're going to call him, would be very important because, the Higgins text, which everyone laughs about. And I did hear, by the way, that music video, which is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. So, Auntie Deb, that was really funny. I mean, have you heard this thing?
I may have. Which one is that, Auntie Deb?
It's like a Higgins music. You have to look at this. I don't want to, promote and promote.
I'll check it out. I love Auntie Deb. Anything Auntie Deb is hilarious. So
The Higgins song, it is witty as hell, and it's up to date. Anyway, after the text messages with Higgins have come out, this time they use the waterfall video to much greater effect. Obviously, it does appear there's some kind of dispute going on in there, pointing fingers. Are you coming? The text messages, all of that. So they laid a solid. Higgins got a lawyer within a couple days, even though he didn't do anything. I mean, lawyers don't criticize people for getting lawyers, but they're telling you Higgins is, an innocent babe in the woods. Why is he getting a lawyer and no one else is? It's weird. But the point is, so they've really put some evidence out there that Higgins clearly, between the two Bryans, there's better evidence against him to suggest a theory of, did he do something? Okay. It's stronger than Brian Albert. Now you could say they participated, but whatever. So then you add in the video of him going to the Canton Police Department, walking around, using his phone, going inside, going in for a minute, coming out, clearly getting something out of another car, putting it in his own car. I guess he moved one car. And then you go back to his prior testimony and you say, all right, what do we have here? So the first trial, he said, basically he was drinking all day. Okay. I mean, he started in New York City, basically. At the funeral, came back, went to the hillside, went to the waterfall, blah, blah. He's just drinking all night. So the idea that he goes to move cars after all that drinking and he left their house, that's weird. And then you look at his testimony. I had to go to the police department to move cars. That's not why he went to the police department. He clearly moved a car at the police department, but he clearly went there to take items from somewhere and take them. I don't know what that means. And he's making phone calls. He also testified that when he left the waterfall, everything was fine. Everyone was happy. Everybody said goodbye. That's clearly not the case. So now you bring in Higgins and you say, what are you doing there? It's not what you said the first time. Who are you on the phone with? What are you doing? You've got the butt dials you need to get out with both Bryans and all that. That video becomes very important for Higgins, and to me makes Higgins unquestionable witness if I'm the defense. I'm absolutely calling him. And then again, in summation, you point the finger at the prosecution and say, you only learned about this because of us. You only learned about Proctor because of us. And even the one witness they called about Proctor didn't want to tell you a damn thing. Wouldn't even tell you he was the lead investigator.
Cocky Erie. Let's talk about Alessi today too, because question came in. Did Alessi say, "Are you familiar with the phrase academic dishonesty?" I thought that was so great. Beyond the mendacity comment, I thought that one was it was just the best. What did you think about Alessi today in general?
I mean, look, he was on point. He had great material to work with. Every lawyer who wants to cross-examine, when you have a witness who lied about something, like you have all this material, you're just salivating. But he's the one who got to do it, and he nailed it, and it's still going, and it's brutal. I mean, it was brutally effective for them. So, but yes, he did say, "Are you familiar with the phrase academic dishonesty?" And good.
Yes, he's like, "Yeah, I know that one. I know that one."
Yep. No, he was really, really good today, and I'm sure he'll be really, really good tomorrow.
Mike H wants to know how many of his claim certificates are also fake.
That's the problem. I mean,
they could be looking into it now.
This sums up the entire point. You're looking at a witness like Burgess, and you start questioning everything.
Everything.
He lies about the dumbest things, and then digs a deeper hole, and it goes on for 17 years.
Is that even his real name? I'd start questioning there. Like, is that? Let's go to this one. This is one that Mark probably doesn't want to answer, has no thoughts on, I'm guessing. But who, if you're in a movie, who's going to play you, Mark, in a made-for-TV movie?
I don't know. Years ago, they used to tell me Charlie Sheen, but I don't think that fits.
Yeah, that's no. You might not want him. I don't think so.
That was years ago. I don't know. That's for other people to.
It's for other people to decide.
Somebody make a funny video several months ago about anyone at all who was tangentially related with this, and they had like the actor to play everyone, including, people like us. And
yeah, who did they have for you? You know,
I don't remember.
I don't even know who they had for me. They had somebody, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
It was funny though. It was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of the type of guy that does that type of work, Joe Flipperhead, I sent the link. He's nowhere to be found tonight.
Yeah,
he was here early. He must have a date or something. He's too busy for us. He was here earlier. I invited him on. I invited him. I sent the link.
We'll give him some crap later.
Yeah, we'll give him some shit. Tell me he was afraid. One of the things I definitely want to mention is that, you're obviously wearing Arizona tonight. You're not wearing the Celtics. I felt bad because I'm like, normally, you know me, I really don't care too much about watching pro sports, but I saw what happened to Tatum and I just felt so horrible. I mean, that's such like a shitty injury to be out for a year.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything about the season ending, especially about Jason Tatum? Because I feel I hate when the athletes get hurt like that. That just sucks, Yeah,
I mean, I think, that the game where Tatum got hurt, they're probably going to lose that game, but they win the next one. And if you said they're down 3-2 and they have the full team, do they win the series? I think probably, because this is what they've done all year. They kind of just coast and screw around. It's been a problem. So they totally deserve what they got. I mean, they should never have lost that series, other than the last game where they just completely got pantsed. I mean, they should have won 5 out of the first 5 games. I mean, and they lost 3 of them, which is pathetic. But if you watch the Celtics a lot, what you saw in the series, this was kind of all year. It happened, especially at home. They would just coast and, like, for this bizarre reason, be unfocused and lose games they had no business losing. And to lose 2 home playoff games to the Knicks up 20 points in the third quarter is, I mean, terrible. So, but, losing Tatum basically kills them for next year. And their roster is going to be all kinds of messed up. I mean, they'll tweak it. So in a couple of years, they'll still be young. They're guys. They'll be good. But a lot of their really good, I don't want to say side pieces. That's not the right word. A lot of their, glue guys, Drew Holiday, he's not going to be here. Porzingis won't be here. He's another one. He's always hurt and just fell off with this mystery illness, which is terrible timing. I think if he was healthy, they probably would have won too. But what a letdown, because I think talent-wise, they were the best team in the league. They should have repeated. And to bow out to the Knicks is terrible. And when you live where I live, it's double worse because you're just surrounded by this bullshit.
I can't believe they were like almost riding. They were almost riding about the second round. I was like, holy shit.
So it's funny you say that.
It's been a while, though. It's been a while. On
the one hand, I understand, like, they're actually paying respect, like, we beat the Kings. Like,
That's
Kings.
true. They did beat the defending champs, right?
They hate Boston. They hate, and as you know, like, the Red Sox really have humiliated the Yankees for everything.
True.
The Patriots always would humiliate the Jets. The Celtics would always humiliate the Knicks. So they want to beat Boston, and they do. So they're giving you some degree of respect. On the other hand, this is New York. Like, this is a real sports town.
The big city. Yeah.
And to see them riot for winning a second round. They're halfway there. They're literally halfway there to win a second round series and swing from light posts and rattle the bus and all that stuff. I have to tell you, shame on you, New York fans. That they know better than that. You know, that's not. It's New York City. They should be doing better than that. But the Knicks just don't win anything, and they have a really good fan base, so they got excited. Too excited.
Funny, all the people in the chat are recasting the movie right now.
Okay.
Woody Harrelson for Turtle Boy,
Okay.
Liam as Yannetti. I'm just laughing. They've been going on and on for like the last 5 minutes here.
Woody Harrelson.
While we're talking about basketball.
I think Woody Harrelson could play you, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true. Oh, Spicoli. Spicoli as Turtle Boy. Could be me too. It's got to be someone that can dance. I don't,
Yeah. I'm sure Sean Penn can dance, although he's old.
Sean Penn. He's getting a little old, though. I saw him the other day. He was walking out with somebody at Cannes Festival, and I was like, holy shit, he looks old.
He's probably the 60s.
But, I mean, we're all getting old.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Actually, do you have any? Someone said Tommy Chong. Now they're coming at me. Do you have any final thoughts? Or I met Tommy Chong, great guy actually. I met his lovely wife Shelby. I like them, very nice people. Any final thoughts tonight, Mr. Bederow, attorney Mark Bederow?
No, only other than I think it's critical to recognize how impactful it's already been on cross of this witness and presumably will be tomorrow. These are the big witnesses for the DA. I mean, the only way they're going to win this case is on science, on something where they convince the jury compellingly beyond a reasonable doubt that don't worry about Proctor, don't worry about all this. We can prove she did it based on all this data and all this. And they have to stick the landing if that's going to work for them. They have to have credible experts who are not only credible, but they wipe out the defense experts because you have to wipe out reasonable doubt. And this guy Burgess is one of those must-have witnesses for the prosecution in order for them to win. And he was nothing short of just a complete devastating mess and disaster. I mean, the guy, they called a witness who admitted sheepishly. I mean, he admitted it was not accurate. He wouldn't admit what was really happening, in my view. But the jury already knows that he's probably dishonest and or incompetent, and probably both. And that's not a good way for a witness. And I think that the needle really moved in Karen's favor. I mean, I think it was already going in that direction, but I think today, combined, especially with what you saw late last week with the medical examiner, they are winning. Like, to me, and again, you're just some biased, grifting lawyer who, whatever. I'm just telling you what I think. And I mean, to me, I think they're winning a lot.
Sure looks like that.
Yeah.
When Kevin was talking about the chip off a couple months ago, I was like, man, maybe they have something. Who knows, right? But
listen,
doesn't look good today. Doesn't look too good today for Kevin boy.
You're a month into this, and as far as I can tell, so far, the prosecution's best evidence, and I'm not saying it's that compelling, but as far as I can tell, their best evidence right now are out of context, random
videos,
second clips that don't mean a hell of a lot to me at this point, but they seem to be their strongest evidence, and that's not good.
Noni wants to make sure you know that Kowloon's has a food truck.
Really? Where is it?
You know that? I know, right? I've never seen it.
Where is the Kowloon food truck?
I don't know.
It's not
I've never seen it, but I've heard. I know they've branched out into New Hampshire into some of the casinos now. They've got Kowloon at the casino. Here's another comment for you too. What do you think about Michael Imperial? I can't even say his name. I don't even know how. I know the guy, but I don't know how to say his last name. The Goodfellas guy, right? Isn't that the Goodfellas kid there?
Spider, yeah.
Yeah.
They call it Spider. Remember the famous scene, Joe Pesci. Hey, Spider, go get me another drink. Now I stand. He's like, hey, Tommy, fuck you. And they shoot him dead. Yeah. And he was in The Sopranos too. Christopher. Sopranos.
Christopher, that's right.
Yeah, I'll take that. And
You take that?
he was also in season 2, which was a
He's
good.
a New Yorker too, isn't he?
Oh yeah, no, he's like hardcore New Yorker.
Yeah.
He was in season 2 of The White Lotus, which was a good show, unlike season 3.
I gotta see that. Everyone's talking about that, and the White Lotus, and I'm like, you know me, I'm like 10 years behind on series. A couple years ago, I was like, when we first started, I got into Ozark. Remember when I got into Ozark? It was like 5 years after Ozark was over.
I recently got dragged into watching a show on Netflix from home. This was not my choice. The Four Seasons on Netflix, and I can tell you, and it's with Steve Carell, Tina Fey, and a couple other people. But I will tell you, it's one of the most god awful shows I've ever seen in my life. It was that, and they've already renewed it for season 2. I don't know, but it looked like kind of like a cheap White Lotus. I thought the way it was being promoted, but it's just 1,000 times worse. It's awful.
In season 2, I'm guessing, unless you get dragged in.
Well, if I get dragged in, I'll get dragged in. But what else? I'm watching.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but
sometimes we get dragged in.
Sometimes you get dragged in, and you got to go with the flow. I'm big into this season of The Handmaid's Tale, which this year is on point. It's good. The first couple of you watch that or no?
I've seen some of it, but I haven't really, not kept up with it. No.
The first couple of years were superb. Then it kind of got a little flat, and then this season it's really good. It's the last season too. It's wrapping up.
Really check it out again.
But
I want to see Squid Games, the new one. I think I missed that. Is that still out? I've got I can't. Anytime I try to turn it on, I get yelled, turn that off.
I saw the first season. I liked it. I started watching the second, and after like 30 minutes, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of like a one-time thing for me. I don't care.
So maybe I'm not missing anything on season 2 then.
You're not missing that, but whatever you do not watch the Four Seasons. It is.
I'll make sure of that one.
That bad. But be careful because your girlfriend's going to like it. It's definitely more.
She will. She likes that kind of stuff. I'll make sure it doesn't come across her screen. How about this one? Bateman as Bederow. I like that one. That would be a good one. What do you think about Bateman?
Well, I like him. I use my cell phone ringer from Marty Bird in Ozark. I have crickets as my cell phone. I got it from Ozark. Remember his phone?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, Ozark was great. I love that.
It was a great show. Perfect. We've covered a lot. Celtics, TV, and all of the case tonight. I mean, we've gone through the retrial, talked a little bit about Turtle Boy. I think we got our fix in. I think we're good. And everyone's like they're down for Jason Bateman as Bederow. Everyone wants that's very popular in the chat right now.
You do worse than that. I'll take that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here. You have any upcoming shows you're doing? I see you everywhere now. You're on every.
No, not right now. It's day to day, whatever. Right now, I don't think so. Nothing I can think of. But I'm sure there'll be more.
I'm sure they will, because they're always they hit me up. They're like, "Hey, you know how to get in touch with Bederow? I want to get him on my show."
I really should charge money.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, yeah, get them on. It's like the more shows, the better. I mean, it's just you need to get the word out, and it's working. You can see, definitely. I feel like everywhere I go, especially in Massachusetts now, even people I grew up with that I didn't know were following. All of a sudden, I'll see the post. They make the post. You see it on Facebook. You're like, oh, they're watching. They're into it. It just seems like it's taken a while, but I feel like a lot of more people know. With trial 2, even with trial 1.
The New York Post coverage I wouldn't call it favorable for Karen. I mean, obviously, I read the Post all day and know all the reporters. I know the reporter covering it for the Post, and she's really nice. I like her a lot. But, when they cover it, it's going to be kind of hit and run. They're not, that's a bad word for this case. But, they're not going to like literally invest. They're going to look for that sexy tabloid angle. So, for example, when they had the day where they play the voicemails, that's right up their alley about drunk murder defendants screaming and yelling, that it's definitely not
Tabloid.
depth. Yeah, it's going to be tabloid, but they'll come around.
It's who's killing it is the Boston Herald and Howie Carr.
Yeah.
And Grace Curley, she's been covering it too, like a lot. So
yeah, it's great. Yeah, no, I enjoy those little radio hits.
Me too, and especially the columns from Howie.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just like I in the past I would have expected maybe a couple columns, but like he just every day he's hitting it like another one. It's amazing to see the amount of content he's putting out on it.
What do you think he's going to write about today? I mean, Mike, talk about fastball down the plate. I mean,
this is perfect for him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, fraudulent resumes. This is like sounds like Beacon Hill, right? There's a lot of BS going on up there.
Fraudulent resumes, Alabama accents, and I mean, how it is.
The first time I saw this guy, Shanon Burgess, I was like, Cousin Eddie? Like I was like thinking of National Lampoon's Vacation. Cousin Eddie. Like that's what he I don't know. It's just Cousin Eddie to me.
It's so weird because he seems like a nice enough guy the way
he does. Yeah.
And you just wonder and you say, why the hell did you go down this path? Like, I mean, if you were embarrassed about your credentials years ago, you fix it early and then it becomes, I think, too late to fix it and you just roll with it and hope for the best. And he got tattooed on, basically national TV and he's finished. I mean, he's unhireable. He's unemployable in this field because credibility is everything for an expert. That's it. Nothing else matters. I mean, I want to say I feel bad for him. On the other hand, the prosecution is using him to try to convict someone who's almost certainly not guilty and send her away for life. So, it's hard to feel bad in that situation.
It is. I can still feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for the guy because, it's going to be stressful, but at the same time, it's like, dude, look what you signed up for. But, it's really stupid too because, like, I feel like a bachelor's in science doesn't really honestly, I mean, I think it's impressive any type of science, math degrees are more impressive than when I have like a BA because, BAs are just writing. If you can write, you're getting a BA. No, but like for, science, I feel like is a little more, but for the most part, like a lot of those types of tech jobs, it's not even about the degree. It's more about the certifications and whether or not you understand the technology. Like there's a lot of people who actually don't go to school who get those kind of tech jobs. But, the lying, it's so stupid. That's why I don't get why he actually lied about something like that when it's not really, he kind of could have got around it. Like, especially if you're a tech smart kid and certifications, you can pass the courses. What do you need? You don't even need the BS,
It's not hard to tell the truth about where you went to school, whether you graduated, and if you graduated, when, with what degree, and go from there. And if it turns out you have no degree, are you going to get examined on that? Yeah, you will. But like you said, if you're in this kind of field, I mean, he's not a medical doctor. Okay. I mean,
exactly.
A doctor who didn't graduate college, you say you need to leave right now. This is, but as you said, it's like IT, you can be very forensically smart with this stuff. Just tell the truth and whatever. And for whatever reason, he didn't. And the story moved. If you look at, I mean, the timelines changed, the name of the degree changed, whether he had a degree changed, and there comes a point where you're not credible. You're just not credible. And then you look at the prosecutor and you say, if this is the best you can get, maybe you should reevaluate the whole big picture because doing it this way is horrible. I mean, it's just that Brennan should be just embarrassed beyond belief. I'm sure he isn't, but he should be.
Wish he was. I wish he would just say, you know what? It's time to throw in the towel. It's time to dismiss the whole thing. But we know he won't.
No, they're not going to dismiss it. They're not going to dismiss it. Nope.
Well, Attorney Bederow, Mark, I want to thank you so much for being here again tonight and spending time with us. We'll see you. Everyone follow Mark on Twitter at Bederow Law on Twitter. And I love your tweets. Your tweets are so amazing. Every Friday when I do the Curly show, half the time I'm looking at Mark's tweets. I'm like, what can I? Because she's like, what can we talk about? I'm like, oh, let me look at Mark's tweets and will refresh my memory, because your tweets are so detailed. I really appreciate what you do when you get to tweet with what's going on in court. I know you always can't do that, but when you do it, it's amazing, and I hope people appreciate it and follow you for it.
Some do. They tend to be stream of conscience as it's happening without real thought. That's why they get and typed real fast. There's probably a lot of typos in those because they're just flying like you're trying to do 10 things at once. But yeah, whatever comes to mind while it's happening tends to end up in the tweet.
It's very helpful because so much can go by, and when you have someone like yourself doing that, it's very helpful for us. Because in the past, there was only Grant Smith Ellis doing that crap. It's like we have so much better now. Thank you so much, Attorney Bederow.
Didn't expect to end compared to Grant. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? People were actually relying on that guy at one point.
Well, yeah, no, that's a lot.
We've come a long way.
Yep.
All
right.
So thank you so much. You have a great night.
You too. Talk to you.
You too. Bye, Mark. With the Young Jerks, I want to thank everyone who's been watching tonight and commenting and super chatting. I am going to read all the super chats. I'm going to read all the Venmos and all that. I'm going to play a little video. I'm going to hit the bathroom first real quick and check on my dog. And then I'm going to come back. I like some of the super chats already. Richard Gere as Alan J. Total Primal Fear vibes. Let's you know what I want to do? I'm going to close out the show by playing a little of this video tonight to close it out. But I'm also going to come back and read all the super chats and do all the thank yous. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to throw it up there, play it a little bit, and then I'm going to come back. I just need to take a quick little break, and then I'll be right back.
Mr. Brennan, that testing didn't occur until after this trial started, correct? Some of the testing you described in direct?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay,
Up the volume
so
a little
that
bit.
testing didn't even occur in the trial. Just assume the trial started at April 22nd. So the testing you described when you were talking about aligning clocks and GPS, that occurred after April 22nd, correct?
Correct. We did.
Now let's go on to another topic. Let's talk about professional credentials. You know what I mean by the term credentials?
Yes, I do.
Professional credentials are important in any profession, correct?
Correct.
And they're important in your forensic examiner profession as well.
Correct.
Your forensic scientists and examiners are no different than any other professional that credentials are important. And your profession requires you to provide curriculum vitae, laying out your education, training, and background, correct?
Correct.
And it's imperative, is it not, that the information that is disseminated about your professional credentials are absolutely truthful, right?
Yes, they should be.
You say they should be. Let's continue on with that topic. You understand what's meant by the term ethics, right, generally?
Yes. Yes.
And simple ethics mandate that one is truthful about their professional credentials, correct?
Correct.
And a fundamental credential is what type of college degree you hold, correct?
Correct.
People rely on those credentials, and the credentials are the foundation of your expert opinions and analyses, correct?
They can be. Yes.
They can be, and they often are, correct?
Yes, they can be depending on context.
But more often than not, they're important.
Yes. Again, depending on context.
You know that not only your colleagues, but your clients, firm clients, courts, and juries will rely on your CV and your credentials in order to make determinations about whether you're qualified to testify and your depth of your qualifications, correct?
Correct.
You provided the Commonwealth, the defense, and the court with your CV in this case, correct?
Correct.
If I could have a moment, Your Honor, I will
Yes.
get my first exhibits. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Welcome. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I could have this marked as the next exhibit
For identification?
for identification at this point.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm going to have it off, I'm going to be eventually offering it into evidence, so
Okay.
may I present it to the
So
witness
let's mark it for identification
first?
first.
Yep, okay.
Exhibit TT for identification. Okay.
May I present it to the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Burgess,
Yes.
I am presenting you with exhibit.
TT for identification.
I was, thank you, Your Honor. I'm learning not to talk while I'm walking backwards so Madam Court Reporter can hear me. So I'm presenting you with what is exhibit TT for identification. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
So this document appears to be my CV.
It's my resume. My doctored resume. This is so funny today. All right, I'm gonna read through the super chats. I want to thank Jenno, one of our moderators now. She's been a member for 12 months. She says, "Happy jerk anniversary to me." Thank you so much, Jenno. I really appreciate you as a moderator and as a friend too. You've helped out a lot this year. Thank you so much. Also, she says, "Me too, Jen." She's also been a member on both of them. Both our moderators for 12 months. They've been members here. Thank you so much, M and Jen. I just want to thank. I'm just a girl in the world who sent $4.99. She says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was the show guest we all need after today." Oh yeah, I think I needed it too. Also, Tracy B sent $4.99 a super sticker. Thank you so much. I should note too that I did post yesterday about a civil suit that's been filed against me for defamation. There's going to be some more news about that this week, probably. Probably going to have some type of fundraiser. How you can all help me. I really appreciate everyone who's reached out about it. Brian B also sent $5. Does anyone know why Paul and Peg never sit next to each other? From what I understand, they don't get along. Quita G sent $20 and says, "New documentary loading. Body on the Stand featuring Shanon Burgess. Embarrassing. I didn't think it could get worse than Trooper Paul." I know. That's what Bederow said tonight. In hindsight, the judge denying the voir dire was a layup for the defense. Oh, man. Trooper Paul must be happy today. He really must be happy. You know? Gen X girl lawyer says the listenator got the best of Hank today. Oh, he sure did. I think he's gotten the best of Hank just pretty much on most days. Close says, can they call someone from Aperture to prove he lied to them about his credentials? Wow, that's a good. They could. I don't really. I don't know. Maybe they don't really need it at this point. I'm sure they could. Mike B from the 413 sent $2, said, what ends up being the total fallout from Aperture? I mean, we saw it today. I think they're going to lose some contracts. It's probably all of their witnesses probably going to be questioned. Anyone that has Burgess as a witness in the present or past, they're going to come under a lot of scrutiny. Bev's bias beratements and rulings says we need another payment channel to support Karen Reed. In the rest of the world, we can't use Karen Reed's fund page or Venmo from Europe. The world is watching. I thought you could use Venmo. I didn't know that. That might be something you want to hit up Nick Rocco or Kelly Reed. I wish I had an answer for you. Thank you so much for the £5. Linda Lou sent $1.99. Thank you so much, Linda Lou. Thank you, Brad Blankenship. Sent $4.99. Says, not posing a question, just wanted to give Mark a forks up. Current 52-year-old ASU student living in Virginia, graduating in December. Kim Simonson sent $1.99. Thank you so much, Kim. Hear ye, hear me. Sent $19.99. Says, once again, thank you both. You're the best, and we all appreciate you. Love. Thank you so much. Laura Reacher says, Mike and Mark, you were amazing on X today. Fire. Thank you so much, Laura. Hear ye, hear me. Says, oh yes, and please bring Welcher back after ARCA. Please do. We can't wait. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Welcher. That might be tomorrow. Who knows? Steve Kelsey sent $20 and said, do you think Shanon left his new CW-funded Lexus SUV at the airport for this trip? Mr. Bederow, what was your role going to be? Were you allowed in? Are you helping defense? No, he's not. He cannot help the defense. He's not working with them at all. My understanding is he was going to be a defense lawyer. He's going to be questioning witnesses. That's what they were going to have him there for. And I think he would have handled a lot of the corruption stuff, the cover-up stuff. Overstimulated, a.k.a. Tish, says, Mr. B, thanks for being so generous with your time. Exactly. It's been on how many shows this week? Nietzsche Williams Thomas sent £5 and says, hey, both, why do you think they aren't bringing in the pig DNA in John's arm to support the dog bite? I don't know. East Bay Thunder Dunk sent $5 and says, Mark, can you explain how the O'Keefe family is still against Karen other than they think the defense is a bunch of tricksters? I don't think he could really explain what the O'Keefe family is feeling. But my suggestion in future shows with Mark, just post the question in the free chat. You don't have to. We're not doing the questions for money. Cindy sent $10. Thank you so much, Cindy. Jen P just gifted a 1-year Young Jurors membership. Thank you so much, Jen P. That is wicked generous. Someone just got gifted for the whole year. Unbelievable. Thank you, Jen. Unchecked Lie sent $5 and said, everyone make the Buchanan and hit that thumbs up button to acknowledge you've seen the video. Thank you so much, Unchecked Lie. The other Karen sent $1.99, says, congrats on your win today. Any comments to Mark? We did actually discuss that, so I hope you got to hear that. L Woods also sent a super sticker, $9.99. Thank you, L Woods. I see you all the time in our chat every day. I really appreciate you. You're a great member of our chat. We really like you here. Thank you so much for the super chat tonight. Brenda S., another one who's always here in the chat. Thank you so much, Brenda S. She sent $50. She said, I heard you are fighting a lawsuit I support your valuable work. Your channel is maturing our shared understanding of our justice system while fighting corruption. Meaningful work. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much, Brenda. I really thank you so much. Yes, I am being sued for defamation. I have a great attorney. I spent quite a bit of money already, but I'm very confident with my defense attorney, and I'm very happy with who I have. And I appreciate all the support that people are offering me on this, and there'll be much more people can do in the near future, hopefully later this week. Jen M. Sent $4.99, says super sticker. Thank you so much, Jen M. Thank you, Clarity07. Said thoughts on jurors afraid to say not guilty. I hope not. I hope not. The process is the punishment. Set $9.99 says Microdots post on X with Bev's Q and then Brennan's convention. Capital D for dirty. I'll have to check that out. Microdots has been doing phenomenal work lately. If you haven't seen it, go check him out on YouTube. He's also on Twitter. Bewitching Buttes at $4.99 says interesting. Bev's brother Amy J.C. Prescott. Wife's last name is Tully Prescott. Makes one wonder. That is interesting. I didn't know that about the Tully name in her family lineage. Sky Stars page at $5. It says, I was thinking that they let Lally get up there because Lally might be more likable. Maybe we'll see more Lally then. That's a good point. Redondo Beach says, I'm obsessy with Alessi and bewitched by Bederow. That sounds like a good t-shirt or bumper sticker. You should put that on your car. Melanie R. says, Burgess told Brennan on the 7th when Brennan lied to the judge and said he was surprised. How is that the prosecutorial misconduct? How is that not, how is that not prosecutor, I can't even say the word, prosecutor misconduct? That's where I'll say it. How is it not prosecutor misconduct? I know, this is all about Brennan. Here's one. I am a nurse and had a psychiatric patient smother himself in his own, I'm not going to say that word, this morning, but this was the most disturbing thing I've seen today. Yeah, it was more disturbing than some of the things that I picked up today from the dogs. Tons of fun. 911 says, has there been any Commonwealth witness that has been helpful to the case even a little? I feel like pretty much everyone has been killed on the stand. I know, right? The only thing, I think what Mark said tonight, the only thing is like those videos. That's about it. Just Karen's videos. That's all they have. That's really all they've had that's been, I think, helpful to them at all. And that's not that helpful. Gringa says, witness so bad, it's like he's a double agent. LOL. I know, right? He could be. Maybe he was working for the defense. We'll find that out later. Haley said $9.99 and said he's outright lied about the degree he was pursuing. Bachelor of General Science isn't offered at UAB. It's a Bachelor of General Studies. He was in my original cohort. General Studies, that sounds like a BA. Is that like General Studies? That has to be a Bachelor of Arts, I'm guessing. It's not even a science degree. Huh. I know. NM says, how about Officer Barrows from Dighton? Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Mark thinks he should be on the stand. Cam Wild says, I'm working on my Bachelor of BS too. I want to be an astronaut next. 17 years, oh my. My Bachelor's of bullshit, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. I got a Bachelor in BS. Shay44 says, Brennan ordered the expert on Temu. Seriously. I think he did. He spun the wheel. He got a 2-for-1. He got a 2-for-1. Brooke Palmer says $10. What about him admitting to talking to Brennan on the 7th and saying he knew he was going to submit it? Brennan wasn't surprised. Sorry if I missed this question. Yeah, we did discuss that earlier tonight, definitely. Shady. It's just shady, all around shadiness. It's you keep I'm going to accuse you of what I'm actually doing. That's what it comes down to. All the stuff he accused Arca and the defense of doing is actually what Brennan has been doing. Shenanigans going on, says in the tow truck video the taillight was intact. Angelo sent $2 and says Bev hit up Hank with Signal app to yell at him. Stephanie, another moderator on of our chat here, she's been a member for 13 months. She says Karen will be acquitted. I hope so. It's feeling more and more like that, though, right? Today, after today. Shenanigans going on, says Hank did it because he wants to force a mistrial. I don't believe that. I don't think he wants a mistrial. Here's JBN Me says there's videos all over YouTube with Miss O'Keefe rolling her eyes. Can you imagine if the tables were turned and it was Karen's family rolling their eyes? New sub. Thank you for subbing tonight, and thank you for the super chat. I know there is a double standard on that stuff, big time. Big time. The guy didn't come out alive, says, didn't they move the timeline closer to when Karen connects to the Wi-Fi? I mean, that was the purpose of what they were trying to do today, right? They were trying to move it closer to when she hit the Wi-Fi at John's house. Thank you so much for becoming a member tonight as well. Laura says Richard Gere as Alan Jackson, total primal fear vibes. I know that would be a good one. I think Richard's a little older now, but definitely would have been a good choice back then. Run the World says $9.99, says, what is the name of the Commonwealth's neurologist? I don't know. I don't have that name on the top of my. Welcher CV changed to not an expert witness. I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it, right? They probably changed to everyone at Aperture now is not an expert witness. Bat Mama sent $4.99, says, why would Commonwealth hire Brennan? Does he have a good reputation as a smart attorney? If so, why is he making a fool of himself? I mean, these are questions we don't know. He apparently did have a pretty good reputation before this as a smart attorney, yeah. I think why they would hire him is because they had no one else to try the case. I think they had to bring in a ringer. They had to bring someone from the outside because no one in the office would try the case. That's what every source that we hear from indicates, and it makes sense. That's the big question. That's the question that we want the press to ask Brennan and Morrissey in the DA's office. These are the questions that the mainstream media, who have professional reporters handling this stuff 24/7, and they're at the courtroom, they should be asking those questions. These are the answers, the questions that we want answers to. Little Mighty sent $10. It says there's an enhanced video when Karen pulls out a Meadows. A cop pulls up to the driveway. Also, apparently, Fanning was involved in the company that processed some of the Commonwealth videos. Why no mention? The second part, I don't know. And I'm not sure that company did actually process some of the Commonwealth videos. I know there was a company that was a question with Colleen Crawford, but the enhanced video of Karen pulling out with the cop, I don't think that's actually real. I don't. I've seen that. I've seen some people question it. I don't know. I think if there was anything to it, the defense would be running with it. Angie says, not sure if this has been asked. What did you think of John O'Keefe's mom facial expressions at the beginning today, rolling eyes and shaking her head at Karen Reed? North Carolina supports her. I mean, It is what it is, you know. I don't think she should be doing it, but I don't like to criticize the mom. That's not why I'm here. Sharon Schockenhart gifted 10 Young Jerks memberships. Thank you so much. She's another moderator, another mod in the chat. Thank you so much, Sarah. I want to thank all our mods, Sarah and Schockenhart, MJ, Stephanie, Jeno, and Scott McGinnis. Thank you so much to our mod team. Glenn Lake, he's another regular here. He's always got the funny jokes. He just gifted 10 Young Jerks memberships. He's got a lot of jokes from me. Usually he's picking at me, which is, it's totally acceptable when it's from Glenn Lake. Only Glenn Lake, though. The super cool thing is lay people following the case online, like in these chats, did some digging and found the CV discrepancies, right? I mean, that's the beauty of having so many people watching this trial and watching all these YouTube shows, and why it makes such a difference that you all watch these shows is because you never know who's watching, who's going to research, who's going to look into things. And that's why we're all part of this. Like, the more eyeballs we can get on this, whether it's this show or like the 25 other shows covering this on YouTube, it's all helpful. And all of you watching. So it is very super cool that the audience has such a big say in helping the defense uncover all this stuff. So it's awesome. I think that's it. I think I got all the super chats. I think that is it, unless... Whew, I think I got them all. Wow. All right, I think I'm going to do a couple of Venmos. Paula K. She sent $5 on Venmo and said, "What would you call Julie Albert aside from phone calls and Chloe? Wondering if they have phone data putting her at Lank's house with Jen and Kerry." I would think that you might want to call her. Yeah. Barbara M sent $10 as a gift tonight. Thank you so much, Barbara M. Vicky E sent $5 and she said, "Can you ask Mark if he saw that Brian Walsh's attorney is asking for Google searches to be tossed?" We're not doing questions like that. Vicky, we did thank you so much, Vicky. What's the other one? Mary Jane V sent $20 and she said, "Free Karen Reed. Thank you so much." And earlier today, I also had a Cash App I want to thank. From Nancy M. She said, "Thank you, Young Jerks, free Karen Reed." All right, I think that does it. All right, I'm going to play a little video and then I'm going to forward everyone to Turtle Boy. I'm going to play a little more of this video and then we'll forward everyone over to Turtle Boy here.
Yes.
And is that CV a document that you have prepared?
Yes, so that is a document that either I have prepared or the company Apter has prepared.
And is that a fair and accurate document?
It appears to be.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
Any objections, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Yes.
And if you could just, if you Honor, if I had the witness hold it, I have some
Hold on,
questions.
let's let it mock
Yes.
first.
Sure.
Yep.
Exhibit 183.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, you have in front of you your CV that we just spoke about, and I'd ask you please to draw your attention to the education section where underneath in red it says BGS And then, do I read it correctly? It says Bachelor of General Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, University of Alabama dash Birmingham, Alabama dash currently pursuing. Did I read that correctly?
You did read that correctly.
Thank you, sir. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Like this, Mark, is the next for identification only at this point. Oh, excuse me, can I have that back on? Sure, Mr. Brown. Sure. May I hand it to the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to actually ask to have it marked for identification first,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Exhibit UU for ID.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, it's been marked, the document is Exhibit UU for identification. Could you please tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, I do recognize that.
And sir, please describe briefly what that is.
Sure. So it is a CV as well.
Thank you. I would offer it into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Brennan, any objection?
No, thank you.
Okay. Exhibit 184.
Thank you. I present it back to the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burgess, once you've had a fair opportunity to look at that, I have a question, and that question is simple. Is that your April 2025 CV?
Let me see. Yes, it appears to be.
Thank you. And when you've had a fair opportunity to look at it, when you can just pick your head up, sir, to let me know you're ready. I don't want to
Yes.
rush you, but then I have some questions.
Absolutely.
Thank
Go ahead.
you. So, in those two exhibits, your two CVs in front of you, am I correct that the first one is November 2024 and the second one is April 2025?
Let me see. Yes, that appears to be correct.
In both of those CVs, you indicate that you have not yet earned a bachelor's degree.
That is correct.
And you certainly have not earned a Bachelor of Science degree in any educational field according to those two CVs, right?
Correct.
And in fact, as you sit here today, you do not possess any bachelor's degree.
Correct.
And the reason, as you state, is because that bachelor's degree is currently pending. That's the term you use.
So I use currently pursuing.
Currently pursuing, yes. So you have a public profile that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
Yes, I do.
And it's in the form of a biography page.
Yes, I believe so.
And that biography page has your education listed.
Very possible, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. If I could have this marked, please, once Mr. Brennan reviews it. Thank you. Your Honor, may I have this marked as next identification in order?
Okay.
Thank you.
Exhibit DB for ID.
May I hand it to the witness?
Yes.
I now, Mr. Burgess, giving you Exhibit DB for identification.
Okay.
You recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And indeed, that is the bio page that's published on Aperture's website, correct?
That is what it appears to be, yes.
Now, I would like you, sir, to turn to page 2 of that document.
Okay.
And I'd like to turn your focus to the bottom of education heading. It states, am I correct, sir, BS, Mathematics, and Business Administration. Is that correct?
It does state that, yes.
And there is no qualification that's currently pending. It states BS in Mathematics and Business Administration, correct?
That's what it states there, yes.
And you do not have a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, do you?
No, I do not.
And if you click on the hyperlink for your CV on that same website, do you know where that hyperlink takes you?
No, I do not.
To any member of the public reading this, including prosecutor, a defense attorney, a judge, or a jury, that represents that you received your Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Business Administration, does it not?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Now, if you continue on to your photograph, are you familiar with Aperture's website that speaks about you and presents you generally?
Vaguely, yes.
Are you aware that Aperture has 2 hyperlinks, one that says CV and one says LinkedIn? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am now.
And LinkedIn is a professional networking platform designed for career and business professionals to connect, share content, find jobs, etc. Is that a fair description of LinkedIn?
Yes, it is.
And could we also conclude that it's a professional networking platform, especially for private sector firms like Aperture, that's used to attract clients or potential clients?
Yes, correct.
And potential clients include, for example, the Commonwealth of the state of Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
And indeed, the Commonwealth is no longer, if you will, an attracted client, but it's an actual client of Aperture and you, correct?
Correct.
And that's the status of the relationship here. Aperture is a client of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in this case, right?
Correct.
So is it fair to say that your CV, especially when it's published on a LinkedIn or published on a website, is something that is published to intend to have, especially if you're in the private sector, have clients view and retain your services? That's a hope and an expectation, correct?
Yes, that is part of it.
Now, when you look at that document, when you click on, if you were to be in your office, and let's see if you're familiar with this, you click on your LinkedIn on Aperture's page, that would ordinarily take you directly to your professional LinkedIn account, correct? Isn't that what the links are there for?
Yes, I would expect so.
Are you notified when someone electronically accesses your LinkedIn account?
Not accesses, no. Are you referring to viewing?
Yes, that's a better
sorry,
verb,
yeah.
viewing. Yes.
Yes.
So you're notified. Were you notified within the last 72 hours that someone from the defense accessed your publicly available or viewed your publicly available LinkedIn account?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that within the last 72 hours, that hyperlink on Aperture's official website was disabled?
No, I was not aware.
Are you aware that now if you try to go on that link, that you can't, that it's disabled?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Do you know whether anyone from Aperture directed someone within Aperture to disable your LinkedIn account within the last 72 hours?
No, I'm not.
Have you spoken to anybody at Aperture about your LinkedIn account?
No, I have not.
Yep. Your Honor, I'd like to move EV into evidence at this time, please.
Okay, any objection?
I can just see it. It's,
This one.
oh, that's not what I presented.
No objection.
Exhibit 185.
And we are done with those, so
Sure.
if I could ask those back for you. we can go to
Absolutely.
the court reporter. Your Honor, could I have please the next one, Mark, for identification at this point?
Yes.
Thank you.
WW. Thank you.
May I present to the witness?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess, I presented to you what is marked as Exhibit WW for identification. I'd ask that you take a look at it, take a fair amount of time, and then if you could, sir, pick your head up so I could see that you're ready.
Sure. Okay.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, it appears to be a screenshot of my LinkedIn account.
Your Honor, I offer that into evidence.
I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much. If you want to watch the rest of the video, you can always find it on our YouTube. The whole stream. You can watch all day. All the testimony from earlier today. Shanon Burgess is going to be back on the stand tomorrow morning. We'll be live at 9 a.m. broadcasting. We're going to redirect everyone. I'm going to end it right now because I want to go watch Turtle Boy. Let's go watch Turtle Boy. Let's do a raid on Turtle Boy right now. I'll see you in the chat over at Turtle Boy Live, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great night, everyone.